And hello. Welcome to the Absolute Football Podcast, our first one of 2026. Welcome to the Absolutely Non-League Show. Very excited to be back with everybody for the new year. We've assembled, a cast of Avengers tonight. We're all ready to go for the first show of the year. It is, of course, the Absolutely Non-League Show, which is the National League North, and National League South. I'm Sam, your host tonight. We send our love as well to Shah. Our wonderful Shah will be back soon. Fingers crossed she's going to be back soon. But at the moment, we're just keeping everything ticking along with some matches that happened this weekend amongst the ones that didn't, as well as some festive fixtures across the non-league and national leagues to talk about. So let's introduce our wonderful panel that we have tonight. And Jen sat next to me. What a lovely place to be. Jen, how are you? And how was your festivities and New Year?
It was all right. It was a pretty quiet one. Spent it at Christmas at my mum's and then just spent New Year's at home. Ordered a takeaway, watched a film, went to bed before midnight. I'm too old to stay up now. I can't do it anymore. But yeah, it was all right. How was your Christmas and New Year?
It's very good. It's overrated. Too much cheese, basically, was the summary, I think, of my Christmas. So no more cheese. That's the start of 20. I'm not a resolutions guy, but definitely no cheese in the immediate future would be great for the moment. But man, it doesn't need cheese. Man who is the top man, Mr. Ben, is with us as well. Mr. Ben, how are you? How was your New Year? How are you doing?
It was all right, yeah, but a bit like Jen, yeah, very low key. Spent obviously with a close family. Like too much turkey, all the chocolates, Pringles, you name it, alcohol as well at times. Accompanied by a little bit of festivities in the football. But yeah, no, it was all good. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Glad to hear. And of course, we are in partnership with the wonderful NL Full Time, and representing NL Full Time, we have Christian with us as well. Christian, how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Good to see you all again. Busy Christmas period, really, with work and football and everything. But yeah, plenty for us to digest, I think. Depends how far back we're going to look, I suppose, this evening.
Yeah, a couple of games, fortunately. We don't have to do the whole season, there's just a couple of bits in cast in mind too. We should hopefully be all right to cover. And it's great as well to have Morgan with us as well tonight. Morgan, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks, Sam. Yeah, I had a good Christmas. There was, I think, 8 of us round the table on Christmas Day, so it was relatively busy. Ate a load, drink a load, and then New Year's was a bit more low-key, but yeah, it was good to have a lot of people around the table on Christmas.
Nice, that's it. Wonderful. Getting everybody together. That is what it is all about. And of course, it's brilliant to have Joe with us as well, who also, if you notice on the left-hand side, is part of the cartoon graphic as well now. Joe has found his way in. How are you doing, Joe?
Yeah, good to be with everyone again. Nice to see that I'm finally in the graphic as well. But yeah, quiet Christmas, watched a lot of football, some good football and some very bad football, of which I'll no doubt come on to talk about. But yeah, it's good to be back.
Excellent. And it's great to have everybody with us. And it's not just, of course, us, it's the wonderful people that are amalgamating in the chat as well. Good evening to North Stand. I hope you're well. Evening to Steve. Evening to Graham's back with us as well. Happy New Year to you. And to Sean. Happy New Year. Everybody sending a Happy New Year. Spinny fan Chris still over in Charlotte, North Carolina. Happy New Year to you and Graham as well. So it doesn't know about the Avengers with the small boxes. Could be the Brady Bunch. It could be. North Standard says can't have too much cheese. I would disagree at this point. I've definitely had too much cheese, and other crisps are available according to Graham. So there we go. And Happy New Year to Zakama, who's in as well. So Ben, shall I pass over to you? We're going to start, I think, with if you can cast your mind back to 2025, a whole year ago. Some of the fixtures before then. We're going to start there, I think, with the National League.
Yeah, by the looks of it, yeah. Well, obviously we start off really with a few bit festives. Now, I just really need to explain the graphics here a little bit in case everyone's a bit confused because I've only just got my hands on it.
We were
so looking at the team on, in much bigger writing on the left-hand side. Those are the two fixtures they played. So Aldershot played both Sutton United, drew 0-0, and then played Wealdstone and won 4-1. So if that just hopefully that explains it a little bit because otherwise I would have had no clue otherwise. So, but yeah, I guess the best to start. I'll go with you first, Jen. Any standouts from this side here?
I don't know what's going on with Boreham Wood, but I just feel like they're slowly getting up the table and they're getting the results that they need, and other teams around them are losing the games. And for me, obviously, Tom White went there, but now he is out injured for a very long time. But I think for me, they're the team to watch. And the team that I'm definitely keeping an eye on because I feel like they're slowly, you would think it'd be Boreham Wood in the top half of the table right now, but they are fully there and they are making sure they're getting the results to make sure they stay there as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's 5 wins on the bounce now for Boreham Wood. They've only conceded 2 goals as well in that time to Funks, fairly local rivals, Wealdstone. A couple of big wins as well. Obviously, the big one, which obviously we'll come on to later, obviously against Carlisle. But yeah, I say they just seem unstoppable and really started to show themselves as serious title contenders. It's great to see as a newly promoted side, but again, Luke Garrard working his magic once more. So you can't look past that, what the job he's done there since they got promoted back in May. Joe, any standouts on this side for you?
Yeah, I'll leave the obviously the Boston games to Christian, but I think the ones that stand out particularly are Brackley. Really good Christmas for them. I think they were sort of petering on the edge of that bottom 4, and they needed a couple of good results, but they just lost a bit of form. But obviously 6 points, and especially going and beating Forest Green, a real statement. Seems they've picked up a little bit of a back against the wall against Forest Green, but ultimately they showed that they could, make it tight and win that one. Then obviously going and beating Boston, who, that'll be, I know it's still, halfway through the season, but that feels like a bit of a 6-pointer, beating a team who you would imagine will be in and around them come the end. So, Brackley have shown the good at both ends over Christmas. But certainly that result against Forest Green is the one that stands out. I don't think that's certainly a coupon buster. I don't think many would have put them to beat Forest Green.
No, I think they've clearly had I was going to say too much Christmas turkey at Forest Green, but then again, they're vegan, aren't they? So that probably wouldn't have happened. So I don't know what they would have been munching on that festivities. But we've got our lovely Shah in the chat tonight. Lovely Shah. I hope you're doing okay. We're missing you. We'll get on to the Dale in a bit if you want to send in your match report if you're watching on. Christian, we'll start with you. Before we talk on Boston, any sort of standout results on this side for you so far?
I think Braintree really needed that result at Woking, given the way they'd been going down the bottom end. Obviously, one I'm acutely aware of. I agree with Jen. I think Boreham Wood really impressive. A mixture of Rochdale slipping up and then the postponements has meant that they've really kicked up the table. But clearly for me, the story is Boston. We're pushing ahead a little bit by mentioning that Boston also lost 2-1 at home to Eastleigh, having led over the new year. That's 6 home league defeats in a row now, which is a club record ever. And I can talk to you for about 20 minutes about the poor teams in the 60s and the 90s that didn't do the best for Boston, but they all avoided 6 home defeats in a row. And that's what we're on at the minute. Graham Coughlin's changed his goalkeeper in 6 of the last 7 games, which is really, really unusual. Killian Barrett came in on loan, who was at Rochdale last season. He got the shirt, lost it, etc., with Reece Lovett. And initially, Reece Lovett had made some errors, but seemed to be improving. He lost the shirt after keeping a clean sheet at Morecambe at one stage. But now we're in this situation where they've both been dropped 3 times in their last 3 or 4 games. And they've both made pretty poor errors now in these last 2 home games. Barrett dropped the cross for the Brackley equaliser. And I'm sure you've all seen the Reece Lovett one at the weekend where he hesitates and then he miskicks. So I'm always loath to go squarely on a manager because ultimately it's individual responsibility. But I really do feel this is a situation that has been in the making from the management team. And given how strong Graham's been, particularly after that Brackley game, with some of the things he came out and said to the media about blaming the players in essence and saying if it wasn't for the management team, he didn't know where this group of players would be. Well, my argument, one, is with the individual errors, the goalkeepers have been hung out to dry a little bit. And more widely, Graham's put this squad together himself. We went full-time in the summer. He'll feel the budget wasn't what it wanted to be, but he's had the opportunity. And some of his players on 2-year deals, for example, Reiki on loan at Morecambe, Grists at Worksop. There's a couple for the future there, like Kieran Donnelly, but they're not ready in the here and now. And again, these are Graham's decisions. So I hope he carries on. I think he'll have plenty of credit in the bank. I hope he's still got the kind of fight and desire to do it. That doesn't mean he's completely blameless in all of this. I think there's a lot of blame to go around.
Yeah, it's been a very mixed bag. That's the thing when you go and get a good point against York as well, which obviously again I'll get both yours and Morgan's views on that. So I say he's probably a couple of points dropped, I'm guessing, in York's case as well. I think in Morgan's opinion, maybe. But Morgan, any standout results for you before we hit on that game?
I'll talk about Aldershot because I know obviously Rob's not here and he usually would take that bit. Obviously, they had that run of 9 losses in a row, and it was looking a complete mess. Obviously, changed manager as well, with Witherington leaving to Eastbourne and John Coleman coming in, and it didn't really stop the rot. But every time we spoke about Aldershot, it was they've played well, not got the result. Played well, not got the result. Then the results started to click, and I think they've got 4 unbeaten in a row now. If I just double check that, they beat Aldershot, they beat Altrincham, they've beaten Boston since, they drew with Sutton and they beat Wealdstone with the 2 on there. So that's 4 unbeaten in the league now, and they're looking a bit more solid. They were in the relegation zone, 9 losses in a row. They've really turned it around, and that bit of bad luck that they were suffering has fully turned around, and they're looking pretty stable now with them being, if I just double check the table, they are now outside the relegation zone. Yes, it's only on goal difference. It's only by 2 goals. 2 goals in terms of goal difference, but they are out of it after being, I think they were 23rd at one point. They've scratched and clawed their way out of it, and I think John Coleman deserves the respect and credit that it's not an easy job to do, to come in mid-season and turn around what was awful form, and he's done it, and he deserves a lot of kudos for that.
Yeah, definitely, and it's been a bit like I say of change in at Aldershot as well. So I think just said as well that they've the owners left. Shahid Azim, he's left now. He's been there for a number of years. He has obviously transformed the club. Got them towards the Football League. Obviously, it's gone a little bit backwards. I think in recent times. I think director Dean Woods now replaced him for the time being. I don't know whether there's a long-term plan looking ahead. But again, could that sort of thing maybe be disruptive? Like for the season, especially where in the position Aldershot are, particularly the fact they've only, like I say, just picked up in form now. I mean, how do we sort of see it? Does sort of change in ownership now revive the club a little bit, or does it, maybe unsettle things a little bit? I'll leave it open to the panel.
You'd hope it. Oh, sorry, Joe, carry on.
I think the fact that Shahid Azim has left has probably been viewed quite positively by the fan base. I think certainly the reaction that I've seen today on social media has been, it's a good thing, and that they've welcomed this for a while. I think the actual change is with a view to potentially then selling it on to perhaps a new consortium or new owners down the line. But yeah, I suppose from the players' perspective, it doesn't make much difference to them, or it shouldn't do anyway. Obviously, the fact that change has gone through fairly quickly and not been sort of drawn out in the public. I think they'll just get on with their jobs. And they have, I think Morgan was right to say that they have picked up. I always, don't want to be the spokesperson for Aldershot without Rob here, but I've always maintained that they're a decent side. It's just they're not getting the results, and they've got players that are able to go and win games of football, obviously like they did against Wealdstone. So, yeah, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, the big thing I think as well is that they're actually picking up. Sorry, Morgan, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think another thing is they've been in the National League longer than anyone else. I think they're on 9 years in a row now. Everyone else in the National League has either been in a high league or low league in that time. So they are a team that's had so much stability. So then having a change of manager, being in the relegation zone, having now this change of ownership with the look to sell, the last thing they need is to go down. Because if you can stay in the National League for, I think it'd be a 10th or 11th year maybe, it's just, you just need that stability, because the last thing you need is a relegation when you're going through a change of ownership, as Jen could tell you really quite well.
Yeah, definitely. Although I will point out the fact that Aldershot were very lucky one year when they did get relegated, but were reprieved, and Mr. Luke will be able to tell you this, when they got reprieved of their relegation to National North. So I will maintain the fact they should have a relegation against them, but sometimes you get the luck of it, sometimes, don't you? But yeah, I think Aldershot should be fine. The main thing is they're picking up the points they need to. Hello, Treaty. Hope you're doing well. Nice to see you in the chat with us. Obviously, good. Hopefully, good New Year for Bradford and everything. So, well, we've had obviously the first derby, I guess. Pod derby over the Christmas period. Christian, Morgan, 2-2. You're Boston, York. Who wants to go first?
I'm happy to go. Yeah, I'm happy to go first. I was commentating on this one and got the privilege of doing the non-league paper in the end. So, if you haven't heard my thoughts on it at the time or read them since, Boston could have been 3 or 4-0 down at half-time. Absolutely outplayed, outclassed. More luck than judgment, I think it's fair to say. York hit the bar twice. I could think of 3 or 4 goalmouth scrambles. It didn't happen. It was just one. And then after half-time, Boston, from a very, very low bar, did improve before the red card. The red card came. Initially, I was very surprised watching it back when you've got a linesman and the referee kind of with it in between them. I can see why between the two of them, they've probably seen enough for dangerous play, red card. And then from there, Boston continued to grow. It was their left side of defence was the story, really. In the first half, torn apart. Left back Carson, lucky to stay on the pitch, having committed 3 fouls on a booking, was subbed at half time. And then the two that played left side of defence in the second half, Lancashire and Teal, got the goals. And it would have been a robbery for 3 points. I think even though United conceded late and it was half an error, Teal got underneath that header, but a fantastic finish from Stones. I think quality very much told in the end. And I felt at times, to be honest with you, as a Boston fan, first and foremost, it was still a good point. I've never sat there and watched Boston concede a 97th minute equaliser before and think, yeah, good point today. I think that speaks to the quality of York, but ultimately, I think we saw where York's frailties lie. They created so much, and on this one occasion, after that run of goal scoring, it just didn't come together. And I thought a team that would be more front-footed against them, because Boston were very much a 5, a 3, and a 2, and there was a big gap between that 3 and the 2. I think teams that press York, there's clearly errors to pounce on. Boston just didn't have the legs. It was Lionel John Lewis and Frankie Maguire and not much else. And they still managed to score a couple of times in the end. But I would be absolutely first to say should have been 3-0 down at half time.
Yeah, I think that's like I say. He's certainly got the job, but then again, Morgan, the no say die attitude with with York again. Like I say, finding a way to nick themselves a point, and it could be crucial come the end of the season.
Yeah, and to be fair, Christian, you summed it up. Like, it could have been 3. We had the woodwork. We had 9 shots on target. Looking at this now, like, that first half was insane. I don't know how we didn't score more than 1. And then the red card, I was sat in the West Stand, so I was pretty close to it. And at first I thought, Banks stepped on his foot. It's a yellow card, move on. And I was shocked that he was sent off. Saw it afterwards, and it's definitely a straight red. It's studs to his shin. He goes in too high, and it's a straight red card, which you can't really complain about, and it just completely changed the game. What frustrated me was how we didn't adapt to the circumstance. We went down to 10 men. It took us 10 or 15 minutes to then make changes. I was thinking, get your wing backs changed now, because we had Joe Gray and Alex Newby on at wing back. Bring on Ben Brooks and Joe Felix, who are a bit more defensive, more fullbacks, and it would have given us more of a chance. But Teal was excellent down that left-hand side, as you said. Like, that change at half-time and putting him on the left-hand side, he was absolutely fantastic. But as I said, yeah, it was that never say die attitude, and we've scored a lot of late goals. We did it twice over Christmas, the Boston one, then the Altrincham one. And we've done it in other games. We did it last year. It's this squad has that belief. I'm hoping that's not 2 points dropped that we then need at the end of the season, but it very much could be. And I've said on this podcast that I think there's a chance that our attack falters more than Rochdale's defence, because I think it's Rochdale's defence is brilliant, our attack's brilliant. One of the two, I think, wins the title. And I think there's going to be days like it's Boxing Day, where our just only scores 1 and something changes, a stupid red card, a stupid deflection, a corner, whatever it is. Goals can come from anywhere that mean we then don't score the 3 or 4 that we did against Truro, and we scored 5 against Aldershot and all these other teams that we put loads past. It doesn't happen, and then we drop points. And then by the end of the season, we could finish the season a point off top, and we've not gone up because of games like Boston. So I'm hoping it don't come back to bite us, but we'll see.
My worry as well. So I was going to say, my worry as well for York would be not to heap it on, Morgan. If you don't win the title by putting sides like Boston to the sword, I think of the two, Rochdale would be more than adept to the playoffs because it is a solid base. I would worry about York, especially given last year as well. But you're kind of entering the lottery, aren't you? Where you could easily bop 2 teams 4-0 and would go up in the playoffs, or you could suffer a day against Boston, but with a better team that's going to score a couple of goals against you before you get a foothold. And that would be my worry, really. I think it's Ferguson, isn't it, that said defences win your titles while attacks only win your games. And that would be my concern for York. It's going to be a hell of a ride getting there. It's just where you end up.
Yeah, And I agree. And I think it's Rochdale's defence that's going to win the title. And I'm just slightly scared that the attack falters on one too many occasions, like Boxing Day, and that kills us it. What you said about the press was interesting because there are a few faults, but the Rochdale game, I think, said quite a lot because they came and pressed us. We went long to Josh Stones twice, and he shredded their defence and we won that game. And it did show we do have an outlet because last year, if you pressed us like Oldham did, or like Boston did on both occasions where you took points off us twice last year, you can take points off us. But I think this year we do have that slight edge where you do have Josh Stones, who's now being linked with Hibbs and Barnsley and Wigan. I don't think it's going to happen, but he's being linked away. You've clearly got something in an outlet striker that we didn't seem to have last year.
Yeah, definitely. Did you want to touch on the Brackley game as well, Christian, whilst we're on this slide?
Just the goalkeeper was the story again, really. I'd say it was Barrett. That was the one game where a goalkeeper retained his place. So Barrett played really well at York, retained his place for Brackley, and then dropped a pretty tame cross, and it was back to the merry-go-round again. So I think that's the story. Brackley gave Boston a lot of the ball, which they don't like. Graham said afterwards, Graham Coughlin teams don't like the football. They don't like having it. They can't use it. They need something to exploit. Brackley didn't give them it, and you look at Boston's home fixtures to come. They are against all those teams down the bottom end. They've got Southend soon, but then it's Sutton, Gateshead, Tamworth, Woking, and it continues Yeovil into March and Wealdstone and Truro. That is the run. So if everyone's going to come with that same platform, they've just seen 3 teams do it to Boston. They saw Morecambe win 4-0, giving Boston as much of the ball as they wanted. My worry is that not only is the home form poor, but actually there's a blueprint there for the rest of the league that's going to come to Boston in the second half of the season. And Brackley were typified of that. They got their tails up with an equaliser, and then they had enough quality to fashion a winner.
So it's so tight down the bottom, though. That's the thing. Like, literally only a couple of results just change it around completely. That's they look at Aldershot. You know, we're bottom of the league like a couple of weeks ago. Now there's something out of the bottom 4. So it just shows how quickly it all changes. Sam, move us on to the next slide, please, my man. So I'll go with Morgan. Any standout results for you in this slide?
I think Halifax, the fact that they won both the games over Christmas, they've kind of gone under the radar. They're 3 points outside the playoffs now. Yeah. And Adam Lakeland there, isn't it? I'm sure it is. Doing a really good job considering they lost Chris Millington and they lost several players in the summer to Barnet. I know Barnet took 2 or 3 off them. And people thinking, what's a Halifax side going to look like this season? The National League's got stronger. When you look at that top 7, how do Halifax break into it? But they're only 3 points outside it, and they're kind of going under the radar and performing quite well. People have been talking about Solihull's resurgence, Hartlepool's defence this year. Halifax are ahead of both those teams. They're 3 points off Southend, who were playoff finals last year. Halifax are quietly doing the job.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. To be fair, they've always been one of those sides that will always be on the fringes of the playoffs. You know, they always might sneak in one year they might be just out of it. They always seem to find a way though. So I think they are one of those that are quite happy going under the radar because you haven't got your big spenders like your Forest Greens and your Yorks and Carlisle's and that. Like that's the thing. Those sides, again, have always been consistent. They're probably one of the most consistent sides in the National League the last sort of 3 or 4 years. So that's the thing. And like if you can get points over Christmas, that just shows an intent where they want to go. So yeah, I think that's a very good point and a very valid point as well. Jen, any standout results from moving your side?
I'd probably say it's hard, isn't it, as a Gateshead fan at the minute. I just feel like we're in a bad position, but they're in an even worse position than us. Like, I just don't know what's happened to them. There's just no explaining what's going on at that club because last year they were fighting up near the top and now they're literally rock bottom of National League they have now had a manager change, but is it too late or is it just going to take some time to get used to? But to be a Gateshead fan at the minute, I just think it's got to be painful. I really do feel for Luke because I'm struggling and we're 22nd. He's like rock bottom of the league, so I can't imagine what it's like, but hopefully with the manager change, something will happen and he'll be able to get some players in January and stuff and hopefully sort the team out and see what they can do from there. But yeah, they've not had a good season at all this year.
I mean, just looking at their goal difference is absolutely horrendous at the moment. Minus 32 already. I mean, the only side as well have conceded more goals than you, Jen. So as me thinking, oh, you always seem to concede 3 and 4s, but they're conceding generally just as much, if not just a little bit more. But then again, they brought in, like I say, Louis Story, I think, is coming from Dorking Wanderers, and sort of part of the coaching staff. Also got in Mark Beck, who's obviously very well known at this level. I think he spent a bit of time with Chesterfield and also Harrogate Town. So he's not exactly like he's not an unwell known. So maybe a couple of players like that might just put him in good edge. Who knows? So it'll be interesting to see how the second half of the season plays out. They've got to change it quick, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Joe, any standout results for you?
Yeah, not a good Christmas for Forest Green. Obviously, losing to Brackley, one that they definitely wouldn't have expected. We've obviously already covered that game. Seems like that they perhaps were the better side and had more of the chances, but couldn't put Brackley away against a team that were pretty happy to sit in and keep it tight. And then obviously against Truro, more of the same. Obviously, Robbie Savage has always been fairly positive about the way that his team are playing, always creating chances, the better team, and that they're not putting teams away. Obviously, the next game that they played after New Year's Day, obviously, it looks like they found potentially the formula to, score the goals that they have perhaps been missing over Christmas. But yeah, just a little bit of a drop off for them over the festive period. But I suppose, it's been such a good start that potentially ahead of what we expected at this stage, that you kind of need something like that just to, put you back to the drawing board and, change something to potentially, make you better going forward. So, obviously not the best Christmas for them, but obviously a good New Year.
Yeah, you just hope, though, again, like we've been saying, you hope these points don't come back to bite you against those sort of bottom sides, especially Truro as well, where they've been struggling. But again, sometimes you will get a couple of results like that a season. You won't go and absolutely blitz everyone. That's the nature of this league. So I think, they probably look in the fact that they've had a brilliant start. They've only lost 3 games in the opening, 26. It's not a bad return, is it? So they're definitely on course to have a good second half of the season. We've just got to take that momentum in, haven't they? Christian, any standouts for you on this side?
Well, largely thanks to the weather of New Year's Day, Carlisle have gone top, and it has gone a little bit under the radar. Not just today. I was conscious when we recorded it full time, we maybe didn't quite give it the mention it deserved. 3 wins to 0 after going back-to-back defeats. Good work from them. It's Armstrong, isn't it, that scored in all 3 of them. And a quite comfortable couple of home wins by the looks of things against Morecambe and Wealdstone. They've got Solihull away up next if the weather holds a week Saturday. And then there's a big home game against York on the Tuesday night to keep an eye on. And then I note a nasty run for them at the start of February with Rochdale, Scunthorpe and Forest Green. So if Carlisle can maintain that form by the end of all of that, they'll probably be top of the league on merit and by a couple of more points and with less games in hand for everyone else to worry about. Yeah,
definitely. I think I've just seen a couple of comments have come in. Hartlepool United have had some pretty good news now, though they've had their struggles on and off the pitch. Raj Singh has finally gone, and I've now got a new owner come in. I mean, it's been so traumatic for those Hartlepool fans, with the uncertainty of the club's future in recent years. Even Jeff Stelling's come out publicly about, the state it's been in. But that must be, especially, the current position the team's in at the moment, that must give him an extra boost as well to think, hang on, with that, it might be a good feel, around the club again. They can go and achieve, a playoff place. What are we thinking, guys?
I think the question that I would have is, they are a steady mid-table team. I think that's where I predicted them before a ball was kicked, and that's probably where I would see them, finishing the season. I don't see what is going to kick them into that top 7, unless the new owner comes in and is going to go and get them 3 or 4 players, particularly at the top end of the pitch. I see them as being a 10th to 12th, that sort of region, but I don't see them having enough to really kick on into that top 7 over and above the teams that are currently in there.
Yeah, not to be disparaging to some of the others in there. There's a lot of teams that you would say that kind of 10th to 12th, aren't they? I do think if Southend can cash in, I mean, it's only a couple of games in hand. I really do think it could be a season where the playoff picture's wrapped up pretty quickly. Those 7 have been pretty entrenched. Solihull and Halifax are the ones in the form to maybe disrupt it. I think, yeah, I'd agree with Joe. I think Hartlepool will fall away. I think they'll end up fighting Woking, Eastleigh, Tamworth, probably Yeovil for that top of the bottom half or bottom of the top half, and that'll be it for them. Prove me wrong.
Yeah. Just going back into the chat, I know Green Acres, obviously, Forest Green man, our man for knowledge for them, has put a couple, quick summaries of their Christmas period. So first one, obviously, he's put not the best Christmas for Rovers. Truro, we were really frustrated, came for a point and we couldn't break them down. And then, obviously, following it up, obviously, we have a game against Halifax. Different gravy on Saturday against Halifax after having secured the services of the Prince of Penydarren, is it Park? So, yeah, I'd say a bit indifferent for them, that's for sure. But, they're in a good position at the moment, so you'd never write them off particularly. But, they're still right in this title race, that's for sure. Sam, over to our next slide, I reckon. Jen, do you want to get it out of the way now?
Right. I'm not one to say, but we should have won both of them games. 100%. The Rochdale game, no offense, love you guys. I think you're amazing, but that team didn't feel like off of a National League kind of side. It was very hit and miss. I know obviously they've got players out injured and some are in the African Cup of Nations and stuff, but it didn't going into it expecting to get battered 3 or 4-0 by half time. That was what I was going to happen. And I was sat at home watching it and I was just like, this feels like we could nick something here. This feels like something could happen. But it was one of them where it's hard because they obviously got a penalty. Jamal saved it twice. If that man leaves in a couple of weeks, we are in serious trouble. And I mean serious trouble. We've literally got Miles, I think he's called Boney. I don't know how to say his last name, but he's with us at the minute as a reserve just in case he does go. And he has been really, really good when he's been in net, but Jamal just commands that box and he's a big boy. He's a very big boy and he commands that box. And when he saved the first one, incredible. But then when he had to go and retake it again because he was off his line and he saved it again, we were like, okay, get something from this. Obviously, the big dog, Ian Henderson, scores. It was always going to be him. There's no other person that's going to score but him for me. And then went into halftime. I was like, right, if we can just get a point, this will be. And scored. Love him to bits. I think he's honestly incredible, and we're so lucky to have him. And obviously they scored again on the 81st minute. Absolute worldy. There was no chance Jamal was saving that, unfortunately. And it was one of them games where I sat there afterwards and I was like, if we can play like that against teams in and around us, near the relegation zone, in the relegation zone, get a few wins, and I think we will genuinely be okay. I was watching the game and I was like, okay, if we can play like that against a team that possibly can go up, surely we can play like that with teams in and around us. But for some reason, we play really good against the really good teams and then really bad against the bad teams. So it's like, it's one of them. But yeah, the Carlisle one was frustrating because for me, Carlisle just weren't there. There was nothing from them. And we could easily have got something out of it, but we are really struggling up front at the minute. That is our main priority going into January. We need to find a striker. Our number one striker is currently injured. He is always on the field, plays for a couple of games, comes off, and is then injured. So realistically, we need to be looking for someone up front because we are really struggling to finish at the minute. And I think if we manage to get someone up front, I think we've got a shot at getting a few results out there and trying to get up the table. But I was watching that game at home and I was a bit like, this isn't them. This isn't the team I'm used to seeing. And they got a lucky goal. It was one of them. And it's frustrating because I knew we possibly could have got something out of that. And again, that would have been huge for us. So it's points drop that we expected to drop. But then you sit there and you watch it and you're like, we could have got something out of that. But it's hard to say how I feel about it right now, because I know we've got good players in there, we've got great players, but we're losing loans already. Maldini's gone back to Arsenal. He has been our number one. He has been incredible, and I wish him nothing but the best, because he has played absolute ball for us, and it's gutting that we're losing him, and we need someone to replace him instantly, because he is our main person in the squad. But it's hard right now, but I don't see why, if we can't get a couple of strikers in or use our academy, because there is some great lads in there, why we can't get a few results. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens in a couple of weeks.
I think Graham makes a very good point, though. That, if you're disappointed to lose both those games against Rochdale and Carlisle, that it does give them the encouragement now that they can compete with with some of the better side. But I think the difference is, and I always found this when Maidstone were playing in the National League, is it's easy to get up for the games against the really big teams, the big spenders. But it's getting you up, for the likes of, you pay, I don't know, the likes of, no disrespect to teams like Sutton or, Truro on a cold Tuesday night, where you really need the points. That's when the players have got to be at. I think that's going to be, where your season is defined on those sort of games, really. But, and I said, because those two games, I guess, are free hits. And I'm guessing, the Ash would have said that as well to the players, saying, look, we're not expecting anything. This, just go out and perform for the fans. And at least they show that they are competing. They're not that far off. So it must give you encouragement, surely.
Yeah, it definitely gives us encouragement, because, like I said, I was going into Rochdale and Carlisle and being like, right, we're going to get battered 4-5-0. It's fine. It is what it is. That's not our focus. That's them. We'll play them and we'll deal with it. But then coming away from it, you're a bit like, probably could have nicked a point there. Probably could have won that. And it's frustrating. But then you sit there and you think, if I'm thinking this way, then surely in a couple of weeks when we're playing teams in and around us, we can bag them points and try and get out of this relegation zone. Because I think, honestly, once we're out of it, I think we'll be okay. It's just getting out of it at the minute, because everyone's getting the points. And I think it's like 3 points between us and getting out of the relegation zone now. It's slowly fading away. But I think if we do some good business, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, ultimately, it's the goal difference at the moment that, needs sorting out a little bit, because it's probably gets you an extra point at the end of the season, doesn't it? In comparison to some of those teams that are on -8 to -10, or -24, it's a hard one, isn't it? But I think like David also put a comment in saying, he's got a feeling that they can win 2 or 3 games on the trot soon. So it just does think it's almost like once you win, they'll take the shackles off. And they can start going wrong. Because sometimes second half of the season, you see a completely different side, don't you? So hopefully that will happen. Obviously, whilst we're on this side, Jen, any standout results for you other than obviously what happened with the old Morecambe?
I'd probably say Scunthorpe. I feel like they're on a good run at the minute as well. I think they're doing very well. I think we've got them soon. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure we've got them soon. And that's a team that we are expecting to either get a draw or lose to them. But I think they're doing very, very well this season, and they're definitely a team to watch as well.
Yeah, another one I guess slightly under the radar, but the fact they're still, they're only 6 points up the top. They've got a couple of games in hand over Forest Green and Carlisle. So again, it can all shape up, and for Andy Butler's first time, being at this level as a manager, and they are probably exceeding expectations. Because I think a lot of them probably would have been happy with mid-table for a first season back at this level. So the fact they're in, I guess I could say, a tighter race at the moment, given the gap between 6 and 7, it's certainly not a bad way going at the moment. So hoping for them, may that continue. Christian, any standouts for you from this slide?
I think quick mention for Solihull. Obviously, the 7-1, very eye-catching, biggest win of the season. I think they had a 4-4, was it with Morecambe, that would level it for most goals in the one game. So obviously, Dansland Park's the place to be. Chris Millington done a very good job. They came to Boston and they were bottom of the league and won in September. It didn't really improve for them, did it? But on a roll now, setback against Boreham Wood in the fixtures we haven't got to yet. But no shame in that. And they're doing a good job. As I mentioned previously when talking Hartlepool down, I think Halifax or Solihull, they'd be my ones to break into the top 7 if Southend and Scunthorpe can't keep the form going. But as we're seeing there, 2 wins to 0 each.
Yeah. I don't know who put 50p in Solihull recently, because they've just come out of absolutely nowhere where, a lot of their fans are probably thinking that they actually could go down. So I think you're right, Sean. That's certainly a spanking result against a Tamworth side that do seem to pick up the odd really good result here and there against the top side. So that's probably got to be one of obviously the results of the season so far. But clearly, bad Boxing Day, for Town. But clearly, I think a few of them had probably a little bit too much to drink possibly on that day. Who knows? But but nevertheless, fantastic result for them. Joe, any standouts for you on the slide?
Yeah, Southend. They've not been hugely convincing for me this year. I think I said on a recent NL full-time pod that I think they're the one team who I would look at in that top 7 that potentially may just drop out. But yeah, that is 2 games which are very Southend-esque, aren't they? Just the odd goal, 2 clean sheets. There was a goal in there for Gus Scott Morris, I think, as well, who's not been on the score sheet as regularly of late, but managed to pop up with the winner in one of those. So, yeah, they're not playing the best of football, and they're certainly not convincing. But one thing that they've always been able to do on the Kevin Mayer is find a way to win games. And especially over Christmas, that's all you need to do is try and win games, because there's always the odd result in there, like the 7-1 with Solihull. But they've gone about their business really professionally and got 2 hard-fought wins.
1-0 win. No, particularly 2-1-0 is probably the best scorelines you could hope for, to be fair. And like that just shows, like I said, the character of Sound Ben. Like again, they've still got a couple of games in hand over the teams above, so they could extend that gap between themselves and Halifax. But again, sometimes I always say, I think a lot of us say we'd rather have the points on the board rather than the games in hand, because it just gives that added pressure. But it was always going to be hard for them. I think after last year, the standards they set themselves, obviously coming ever so close to getting promoted, and especially now some big clubs really want to get out of that division, so it's getting harder each year. But again, you can only beat what's in front of you, and getting 1-0 wins never hurt anyone. So yeah, credit to, I think got to give credit here to Southend on that. Morgan, any standouts for you?
Sutton, really, really poor festive period, didn't score, and they've now failed to win the last 5-0 competitions, one of which is against Shrewsbury, who is Football League opposition, so there is a little bit of leeway you can give. But then in the next game on the 13th of December, they lose 4-1 to Walton and Hersham, which is embarrassing. And after Chris Agatha came in and he started putting in some good results and they started climbing out, they're back in the bottom 4, didn't score over the festive period, and they seem to be creeping into those bad habits that they had on Steve Morrison that had them in a place where they wanted a new manager anyway. So they're in trouble. And as Jen's spoken about how tight that bottom 4 is, when you've got Sutton on 23 points in the bottom 3, you can go up to Altrincham in 16th, and they're only 3 points away from them. So anyone can really go down in that group of teams. And Sutton just have to be really careful that this slide of 5 games to that win doesn't last for too long, because if they can stop that in the new year, they can keep fighting. But if they let that skid in the way that Gateshead did, they're in real trouble, because every team is scrapping for every single point, as we've seen with Truro, Morecambe with good performances, even though they didn't get the points. Aldershot are back out the bottom 4. Like, teams are scrapping. Sutton can't let this continue.
Yeah, and I think it'd be quite disastrous for them as well to drop into National South not so long. Obviously, having been a Football League side only recently as 2 years ago, so they are in a difficult situation at the moment. And I think I've said before about the manager. Look, he's only been involved really in ties that going for promotion, so it's obviously a different challenge for him. And with Sutton are probably one of the big clubs at that level. Probably low key they are to a lot of people, given their the history that they've won the division, obviously FA Cup runs as well. So yeah, they've really got to find a way to turn around, because having seen all the improvements they've done to the stadium, for that to all go to pot and go into the National South, I think they'd find it hard to come back straight away, given again how tough the division below is getting. So yeah, that's the thing. I think it'd be disastrous. But if it was to be any of Sutton or Aldershot, I think they would find it very hard to come back at the first attempts. But that's why I'm quite interested, especially if it's 2 rivals and that that are fighting for it at the bottom. I'll be interested what it's like come the Derby game in that one as well. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one second half of the season, that's for sure. Sam, move on to the next slide, please, my good man. I think this is the last slide as well of the National League. So, Joe, I'll start with you. Any standouts for you?
Yeah, really bad Christmas for Wealdstone. Started the season really well, overachieved a little bit on what we probably expected them to be. And I think the question they would ask, and certainly Sam Cox hopes isn't the case, is are they now regressing to what we probably expected they may be, or whether it was just a blip. Obviously conceding 4 in both of those games at the start of the season, they were pretty difficult to beat, defensively quite strong, but to concede 4, granted against a very good Boreham Wood team, obviously Abdul Malik going back against his former team and causing them lots of havoc, a couple of goals in that one, and then obviously conceding 4 to Aldershot as well. So yeah, not the best of Christmases for them. Yeah, I mean, I think going into the second half, Sam Cox has got to try and, I think, find a couple of gems in the market, because I think whereas the teams around them, the likes of Aldershot, they've made a couple of additions recently, and obviously Sutton, I know they managed to extend Kai Jennings' loan today as well. So all the teams in and around that bottom 4 are all going out and doing some clever business. And I think for a team like Wealdstone, who haven't got the biggest of squads anyway, it's going to rely on them trying to find 1 or 2 really good additions, because certainly at the moment they need it.
Yeah, I think you're right there, because I think every side needs to freshen it up at some point. Like saying, particularly going into the second half season, and like you said, I think they can be forgiven for losing 4-0 to Boreham Wood. A side of just rampant at the moment and just ruthless in their finishing. But I think that Aldershot result would have hit them harder in terms of the fact that they think, oh, hang on, if it's one of the sides near the bottom that's doing this, are we going to get sucked back in? Albeit they've still got a little bit of a gap at the moment. I think it's just currently look at the table, it's 9 points at the moment that they're above the drop zone. So you just hope that, I think they're probably 5 wins away from being able to secure National League football again for another season. That's probably the thinking they've got to have. I think, look, you've got 20 games left. Let's try and, just like say, get the job done and stay in the league. Because ultimately that is their aim. If they're thinking any further, then, that's a massive bonus. So yeah, it's also a tough old period for them. Leaking goals, like I say, it's not been a regular of them. And, when you go back to the start of the season. So it's a difficult one. And I think you're right. I think a couple of signings definitely would help them for sure. And Sam Cox knows that. And again, it's news to him, in terms of as a manager at this level. So I'll be interested to see how he sort of looks at, and what areas he feels like he needs to strengthen in order to get him over the line. Morgan, any standouts for you?
Do you want me to talk about the York game, or do you want me to go somewhere else?
Well, we'll start with any of the other results first, and then we'll move on to the Altrincham game, because I know there's a bit late on there.
Yeovil, because Billy Rowley came in and he was doing really well in the 7th tier. I can't remember where he was, but he was doing quite well. I think they were top when he left there. And he picked up some solid results, and then it just started to slide a little bit, and they've not had a good Christmas period with only getting 1 point from those 2 games against Truro and Eastleigh. They did just beat Braintree on Saturday the 3rd. So obviously does try and turn that around, but they did go a few games without win. They lost to Forest Green, lost to Truro, drew with Eastleigh, and after the good performances and good results they were getting, with wins against Boston and Hartlepool, looking good, then they slide over Christmas, and then they're starting to pick it up now. So they're going through a weird season. Obviously, they've had other managerial changes and stuff. It's always been a bit of a weird one for Yeovil, but they're kind of doing okay. They're mid-table. They're 31 points. They're 8 points above the drop. They're 10 points outside the playoffs. They're going to finish mid-table, and it's just they should be fine. There's worse teams than them. There's a lot of better teams than them, but it's not a nice Christmas for Yeovil fans.
No, but
I see that Santa did bring them one present under the tree, that Luke McCormick signed a new deal till 2028, which is obviously a good bit of business, because obviously they've lost a couple of players up the pyramid. So McCormick's been in decent form. I think he's already equalled his tally from the whole of last season, with a couple of goals recently. So to keep him for another year and tie him down is really good bit of business.
Yeah, I think it's quite key that Billy Rowell's already looking at players he wants for next year, because again, look, this isn't his side. I think people will assume any manager that comes in during the season, it's not their squad. They might look and I think there's a different way they want to play. So if he's already identifying the players he wants to keep for next season, I think that already shows an intent of what he wants to do for the club going forwards. And I think you're right. I think McCormick, who I watched obviously a few weeks ago in the trophy game, he's got potential, like I say, good quality in that division, and sort of we'll play it around him at times. And it's quite, like I say, if you can get hold on to those sort of players, it get every chance of pushing on, because I say there's one of those sides that need to be getting in the playoffs. But one good Christmas present, though, or late Christmas present, I guess, Morgan, is a certain for Niall at Altrincham. I mean, even I watched on YouTube the other day. What a finish it was, for sure. 2-1 against Altrincham. What happened?
I mean, I wasn't there, so I can go off the radio commentary. But 1-0 up in the first half, Alex Newby scored, and we haven't beaten Altrincham since August 2019. We've played them 9 or 10 times since, home and away, not being able to beat them in the cup, the league, anything. They've been a massive bogey team for us. So we went there, and of course, it's Alex Newby that scores against his former team. And obviously, Altrincham are struggling with that. We took Newby, Grimsby took Amaluzor, and Carlisle took Regan Linney. So they did suffer that hit in the summer of losing all three of them. So I'm very glad it was him that gave us the lead. He didn't celebrate, which I thought was a nice touch. And we had a lot of control in that game. Second half happened, and from what I heard, we just didn't really have any pace to the game. It was, we're 1-0 up, we'll just cruise over the line. And there's always that thought in the back of your head as a football fan of 1-0's not a safe score here. Like, if they can score from a corner or anything, they did. And it fell to, I can't remember who it was that got the tap in, but he fell to someone in about the 6-yard box and he rolled it home. And you're thinking, how have we done this? We're 1-0 up until the 89th minute and we throw it away. And then I think it took 12 seconds from kickoff. Give it to Ben Brooks down the line, Kitchen with a first time cross, and Ollie Pearce does what he does. And that man's heart rate must be so slow because I don't think he feels pressure. Like the way he touches, turns, and finishes in front of 1,000 away fans, sold out away end between Christmas and New Year. And the videos, I'm sure you've all seen them on TikTok and YouTube and everything. That away end looked incredible. So I'm very happy we broke the Altrincham curse. And if we can break that curse, can we break the playoff curse and get promoted this year?
Yeah, for sure. I thought he only scores penalties as well, Ollie Pearce. But I already know what it's like for him to break hearts, in the last final seconds of games. I've already seen it do to him and us in a playoff semi-final before. So, I think in those situations he thrives off that clearly, doesn't he? And look, he's obviously not, obviously he's still been knocking in the goals, but again, it's those sort of moments where you know that you're getting your money's worth for your strikers, and look, he's delivered for you time after time. And again, as we probably said about the Boston game, that would it cost you losing those 2 points, but at the same time, will that goal against Altrincham be the decider for you going for the title at the end of the season? It's just like it comes in leaps and bounds, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's football season. We play 46 games for a reason. I think there's no real luck when it comes to where you finish in a league season. Obviously, the playoffs are a lottery, but when you play 46 games, you have so many ebbs and flows. You'll have one game where you're brilliant and everything falls for you, and the next game, nothing falls for you. And I think it all just goes up and down. And it's why we watch football, isn't it? It's why you follow from August to the end of April, because anything can happen on a weekly basis.
Yeah, it's great to have those moments, even especially over the Christmas period as well. And like you say, I must admit, I did watch that goal back a couple of times just to think of it. Nothing beats away end limbs. Honestly, it's just the best. So. Massive credit to them, like I say, finding a way to win again. So important 3 points. Jen, any standouts from you from this side for you?
I've got to give a mention to Truro. I feel like even though they are pretty much like relegation, literally a point below us, they are going out there and getting the results that they need to try and get out the relegation zone. It's extremely tight down there, but for them to get a draw out of Forest Green is incredible for them. That would have been unbelievable for their fans to feel that. And it's just the little wins, the little 1-0s that they're nicking and the little draws that they're getting here and there, they'll add up at the end of the season. And who knows, maybe they could survive in the National League. And I don't think any of their fans thought coming into this league that they would maybe survive the National League, and they are just enjoying the journey right now. But what a journey they are when they're nicking these little wins here and there. And it's a lovely little ground to go to as well, and I really do like Truro's ground. But yeah, I have a feeling they might just do it.
Yeah, I think that's one thing you can always say about John Askey is he loves the challenge, he loves the pressure he does of these sort of things. And again, he's not been involved in these sort of situations too many times. He's always been part of successful sides, but he knows the task at Truro is to just keep him in the division. And to be fair, I think it's already shown that if they're going to go down, they're going to go down fighting.
Yeah.
And the fact they're only 4 points, adrift of the bottom four, it's probably better than I expected them to be fair. I was expecting them to probably be around about 10 points at the moment. I really didn't think they'd have a chance at this level, to be honest, but they certainly are giving it a good go.
Yeah.
I must agree with Steve on that comment, by the way, because
it is miles away.
Maybe
it's
not
one and done. That's it. It's one and done. I'll never go there again.
No, I think it's the only ground. I think the only game I missed last season was Truro away, and I mean, as much as I'd love to tick off that ground, it's not exactly one I'd be jumping with joy, particularly if we have to go there like January time, like we had to go there December last season. So yeah, I hope they stay up personally for that reason. So selfish
And
Christian.
they're another team. They're another team that down there that are able to add one or two really useful players at the moment. I think they signed Harry Charsley from Oldham on a permanent deal, who I was half expecting to rock up at Boston. The fact that he'd already played under Graham Coughlin twice before in his career. So I was half expecting that he may go to Boston, but the fact that they've managed to get him on a permanent deal at Truro from Oldham is a good bit of business for them.
Yeah, always be permanent side rather than loan market if you can possibly avoid it, I find. But no, that's again, they need a couple of key signs to keep freshening up and give themselves the best chance of survival. But still, like I said, 21 games to go for them could all change. Christian, any standouts for you?
I think, to be fair, we did touch on Tamworth earlier. The only one that's not been ticked off here is Woking, and it's that home form again, isn't it? Just 12 points at home. I think I'm right in saying it's 1 win in 10 in the league at home for Woking now. 15 goals scored, 15 conceded in 13 games for a return of 12 points. It's been steady viewing at Kingfield, hasn't it? And to touch back onto Truro, 16 of their 19 points have come at home. That's my big worry for them. They did get that result at Forest Green, but just a third away point of the season. And you're making a tough job tougher if you're only getting points out of half your fixtures. They're going to need to show a little bit more away, but at home, things have really been improving. I think it's back to back wins, 1-0 and 2-0 against Yeovil and Wealdstone. They just need to take it on the road a little bit. They really do. They've been done 3-4 on a few occasions now, haven't they? And if they don't sort the away form out, it's a huge ask.
Yeah. We always said at the start of the season that the home form was going to be massive for them in terms of the travelling that other teams had to do to go down to them. But now they've got to do it reverse on the other hand and get some points on the road. So they're only the only team in the National League still yet to win away from home. And that's a long old season for those Truro fans that do make the trip week in, week out to see your side get done 3 and 4s and that. And obviously I think they've only scored 7 goals as well away from home. So no, you're right. It is certainly a tough ask for them, and they have got to find at least a couple of wins to give themselves the best chance. But who knows? John Askey, can he work his magic again? We'll see. Sam, I think it brings us on now. I think to the table. I'm sure. Oh no, we've still got Saturday's results. I completely forgot. Well, luckily there's not as many to go through today due to the amount of postponements. But I'll leave it open to the floor. To be fair, any standouts at all?
I'll go with the Yeovil one against Braintree. It's been a bit of an indifferent start for Billy Rowley, but there has been some really good signs, especially at home. They are playing some really nice stuff under him, as you would expect, given what he did with his Walton side. And yeah, 2 quick goals in this one virtually won them the games. I think it was 61st and 63rd minute, 2 goals in 2 minutes. James Daly and obviously Luke McCormick, who got obviously his new contract before. Who else but Brett McGavin with a lovely free kick to wrap it up. After Lewis Walker had actually pulled one back a minute after Yeovil had gone 2 up. So, yeah, I think Billy Rowley, I think you already mentioned it, Ben, that he's already looking at, which of these players are going to be suited to him. I know that obviously they are doing some business. I expect that at some point this week they will have a striker. So, yeah, they're headed in the right direction under Rowley. There's some good signs. Granted, they're only beating the teams around them, but they were the games that they weren't winning previously under the old manager. So, yeah, that's a good win for them after the other 2 games that they've had over the Christmas period.
Well, I mentioned as well, obviously, York not in action, Morecambe not in action either. Did you want to touch on the game, Christian, from Saturday?
Same answer as Brackley. It's that goalkeeping error. Rewind about 3/4 of an hour ago and listen to the Reese Lovett tales again. I should say, and I might be preempting what's coming on the next slide, but Boston have moved their game away at Braintree forward to this coming Saturday. Okay. Weather looks pretty poor. That one was due to be played 2 weeks tomorrow, the Tuesday night round of fixtures that the National League have decided we need in the middle of January. Boston and Braintree thought we're not in the trophy. Let's move it to the Saturday instead. And I suspect it's going to go right back onto that Tuesday where it already was. But if not, one of those teams is going to get the chance to take ground on everyone else down the bottom, and another one's going to concede a game in hand, aren't they? So if it goes ahead down at Braintree, bit of a crunch game really, and Braintree are in the slightly better form and are at home.
Yeah. All I'll say is, I mean, I love the guy to bits, but what was the celebration from Aaron Blair for for one of the goals on Saturday?
Best goal he'd ever scored. That's what he said on their Twitter afterwards. Best goal he's ever. I don't know actually whether him and Reece Lovett have had a run in the past. I did wonder with Lovett having been at Welling.
Yeah,
he might be better than me.
Possibly, yeah, maybe. I think I know he scored the winner against Wedding New Year's Day last year. So whether they had anything on that, and I know Reece Lovett, he tends to. I don't know if he still does it. Or does he still have the GoPro in the goal? Because I know he's used to.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be seeing. I don't think we'll be seeing Saturdays. He tends to be a little bit more selective about his his media output. But to be fair to him, and Graham did say this, both the goalkeepers at times this season have kept us in games, and he said sometimes people have forgotten that when they make mistakes, and maybe Graham's forgotten that as well, given the changes he's made. He's got to stick with one now. I wouldn't be too surprised if he now sticks with Lovett regardless of that. I think you've got to give one a run of 5 games and just go, right, I'm backing you now to turn it around. The alternative is he gets rid of them both and brings someone in fresh. I think it's got to be one or the other. We can't do this from the 20 games.
Yeah, definitely. Any other results anyone wants to check on at all? We all quite happy?
I think only other than I was going to say quick nod to Forest Green and Ricardo Reece. Debut, wins in the game. And we were saying how solid Halifax are looking, but we've spoken about Ricardo Reece a million times on this podcast, how good he's been at Merthyr and kind of what's happening next as he goes to the Football League. And in the first few days of January, Forest Green pulled the trigger and he pays him straight away. I know Savage threw a few of the players under the bus in an interview, so it's interesting to see him do that. And then straight away, Ricardo Reece comes in and scores and looks as good as a product as you'd want in their debut. I thought he would stay in the National League compared to the Football League. I thought that was too big of a jump, but it's interesting to see a team that's struggling to sign a proven striker. What happens now, or between now and the end of April?
And he's obviously put his trust as well, Robbie's having in a few players from sort of the division below. Because obviously Ricardo Reece come in, got Temi Babiola as well. Again, like I say, plenty of goals between them, and it's like I say again, untried at this level really. But I think that we always shows you, in fact, that Ricardo Reece is already sort of off the mark. Shows exactly what he's all about. In fact, he's already been able to adapt to the level that quickly. Just so that they do have a player in their hands. I mean, I'm sure we'll touch it when we get to the national of how much of a blow that is as well for Merthyr. But yeah, I think that's an important result. That Jen, any ones that stand out for you, or are you quite happy?
I'd probably say Carlisle. Obviously, they played a blinder at the weekend, and now they're top of the league. So it's again Rochdale got a lot of games to play again. Is this going to have a dampen on them going up? Who knows? But they try and move it to another ground and it still gets called off. It's just not be a Rochdale curse at this point, like generally.
Yeah. I saw your tweet as well, Morgan, about that. So I'm thinking, like, you did not write it. Poor Shah as well, being like they get, moving their games away to Accrington, a Football League ground, to hopefully get some of those games ticked off, and they're still getting it called off. I mean, to be fair though, like so many games obviously been called off. You look at some of those, teams and that. To be honest, I was surprised about the Boreham Wood one, to be fair, because, I think of a pitch of their quality, with the connection of Arsenal, I thought he might have held off. But again, mind games, who knows? It could have been anything, like with a few of them. But
they called that off so early. I know some York fans were like, oh, it's because Jeff King's back or Abdul Malik's going to leave or whatever. They called it off so early. Like, I can't be too annoyed. Like, if they'd called it off on the Saturday when fans had started travelling at 8 o'clock in the morning, you'd get the same backlash of why didn't you call it off earlier? There's a few people saying why didn't they use frost covers, and maybe they could have tried a bit harder, but it was so cold over the weekend. When League 2 had 2 games go ahead, the National Leagues had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 go ahead. You can't complain too much. It was just really cold. If we'd been the only one called off,
you could be Markham and have it called off 5 minutes before you meant to walk out. So
exactly, like Jen, I don't know if you were there, but that's horrible.
I didn't go, thank God. But I had it over text, trust me. I had it. I had the anger. I stayed away for an hour when he came home.
Just let him watch what he wants on TV, make sure he looks after. That's what you've got to do, isn't it? I feel his pain, trust me. Right, I think that brings us on to the table now. So at the top, we've got changing again. It's Carlisle United on 55 points. Bournemouth second on 53 points. And just below them on goal difference is Forest Green on 53 points as well. York City fourth on 52 points. Rochdale fifth on 52 points. Scunthorpe United sixth on 49 points. And Southend United sitting seventh on 41 points. And in the relegation zone, we've got Sutton United on 23 points, Morecambe at 22nd on 20 points, Truro 19 points and sitting in 23rd. And bottom of the table, sorry, Mr. Luke, it's Gateshead on 19 points. Oh, goodness me. Didn't think I'd be saying that at the start of the season, I'll tell you that. Right, I think that brings us on to, I think it's the National League South. It is indeed. So who should I go for? Christian, any standouts for you from this side?
Yeah, we should say the Dorking-Worthing game was the big one, wasn't it, in the gap between Christmas and New Year? And that did go the way of Worthing. 3-2 home win for them. So just sorts a little bit out at the top of the league. There's an interesting run coming up of games. I'm just reminding myself, but we did spot yesterday. It was Western-super-Mare. They've got Worthing home and away at the end of the month. I know we're cutting ahead now with some title talk and teams lower down in the alphabet, but a fascinating prospect to come in the south in the coming days. And at the minute, Worthing are getting the better of teams at that top end, which includes Dorking. But Dorking having picked up 4 wins in a row before that, which finished with the Horsham one. So they're still in reasonable form. But big feather in the cap for Worthing.
Yeah, I think it's well worth pointing out that Horsham curse has finally been broken for Dorking after 2 FA Cup exits. They've finally done them. Might be at their own ground, but that's besides the point. I'm sure Mark White would have been very happy to get one over Dom DePaula on that one. Morgan, any standouts for you from this slide?
Fleet, 2 Kent Derby wins over the Christmas period. They can't really ask for much more. Obviously, I know you're not exactly happy about them doing well, but at least they're not beating you over Christmas when there's 4 Kent teams down there. But that's 4 wins in a row for them now. Beat Chelmsford as well, who we've spoken about their attack and how good they can be. And then in the FA Trophy in the middle of December, they beat a National League team in Braintree. So they've turned it around. They've had a bit of an inconsistent season, but now they're 1 point outside the playoffs, I think it is. Yeah, they're on 38, Maidstone 39, so they are chasing you down. But yeah, they've turned it around, and that's a really good Christmas. So we'll see what happens in the new year for Ebbsfleet.
Yeah, we got them at the end of the month as well, so that's going to be an interesting one. Like I say, Josh Wright certainly picked it up there. I think a lot of fans were questioning him after. I think it was back-to-back defeats possibly, and now obviously they really are sort of hitting form a little bit now at the right time. And like I say, always getting good wins, and particularly over your Kent rivals over Christmas is key as well. 2 slight, sort of scraping wins, but they're probably the best results they could probably hope for, to be honest. And like I said, they are chasing the pack again. Still think they might be a bit off it, maybe potentially, but look, they always seem to find a bag. They're always in and around there, in this division. So I'd be interested to see, how sort of they kick on and that. Couple of damaging results as well for Enfield, taking a battering against an inconsistent Chelmsford and 3-0 against Hemel. What are we thinking with their form at the moment?
I think for Enfield, they probably didn't expect to get anything out of those 2 games. But I think the really disappointing thing for Enfield will be the fact that potentially they could stay up on goal difference. So the fact that they've gone and shipped 7 goals without scoring will be a real disappointment for them. Whereas you look at some of the other teams like your Salisbury's and that are perhaps losing games by the odd goal, the fact that Enfield are losing those 2 games so comfortably could. We saw a league title decided on goal difference last year, so we could well see a relegation decided on that as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the key point. And like I said, they are one of those sides that, again, they've still got a couple of games in hand. It's not the question, but the trouble is with them, and that was a problem they had last year, was shipping far too many goals, although be it they didn't really kickstart their season until January last year, which obviously kept them up in the division. So, Gavin McPherson's been here before, so I'm sure he'll be using every bit of experience he can to try and get him over the line again. And so I think some of those sides, particularly your Farnboroughs and that, are really getting sucked into it now. Obviously, a defeat for them against Hampton and draw against Horsham as well, albeit they fought back in that game. It's hard. Obviously, I think they dropped a 2-0 lead. Actually, it was so. Yeah, hard one for them to take. That's for sure. Sam, move us on to the next slide, please, my good man. Okay, so Jen, I'll come to you. Any standouts for you from this slide?
I did want to mention Chelmsford. Obviously, they're in and around near the ish top, but they're trying their best to get up there. But they got absolutely battered by Dagenham and Redbridge. I think for them, that's a result that they didn't expect to get to happen at all. So I think they've got to try and bounce back from that now, because they've obviously been getting some great results, but that's got to really dampen your spirits for sure.
Well, they're in a very difficult place at the moment, actually. Sitting 14th at the moment in the division. They're 6 points off playoffs. I know Angelo Harrop's been under huge pressure there from his fans. And, I think it's been noticed as well that he's not been doing a couple of the interviews recently. They actually sent out their chairman to do the interview after the Dagenham game, which seems a bit of a cop-out in my opinion. Yeah. I was really hoping, obviously, because we were meant to be playing them on Saturday, I was really hoping we were going to play them, because I thought it would have been the best time to be playing them. Yeah. And unfortunately, we got to Gravesend, so talk about half an hour away from there, and we got told it got called off. So yeah, and unfortunately, it gives them a bit of a chance, but they have brought in a couple of new signings, including a new goalkeeper and Joe Wright as well. So again, whether that will maybe kickstart, because I know Chris Haig's for me, he's an inconsistent keeper. I think to me, he's a good shot stopper, but crosses and that tends to struggle a little bit. So. Yeah, but that would have hit him hard, losing to local rivals, Dagenham as well. But again, they've been picking up as well, to be fair. Joe, like I say, you would have seen as well, despite the fact, losing to Hornchurch, having fought back last minute, and obviously conceding last minute, but following up with a great win at Chelmsford must have given him some world of confidence for Lee Bradbury and his side.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they have picked up. I've been really impressed with Stan Leach, obviously with no Andy Carroll at the moment. They've had to rely on other people to contribute, and Stan Leach stepping up from the lower tiers. Was it, I think, Newmarket Town?
Possibly.
And he's obviously scored on his debut, got a goal against Chelmsford, and has got a couple to his name already. He's a bit of an old-fashioned striker in many ways. Got the ponytail, he's hard-working, proper number 9. So yeah, I think for Dagenham, it's been a bit of an indifferent Christmas, but that result against Chelmsford will give them a real boost of confidence.
Yeah. I'll tell you one side that I did want to mention, actually, is Chippenham Town, because they've had obviously a very difficult season, but unbeaten in 3 now, obviously picking up a late win against local rivals Bath City. I think it's, I can't remember what the derby they call it is, but it's obviously it's their most important one, put it that way. I think they're pretty sure they segregated the game. I think they thought they'd lost it late on, and then they managed to grab, I think it was like 89th, 90th minute winner possibly. So again, a huge result, and obviously going to Totton, picking up a good draw there. They're very hard to beat. And then obviously, we'll probably allude to when we come to Saturday's results, probably an unexpected point against the league leaders Worthing. So, finding a little bit of resilience though, aren't they? That's again, they have always been punching above their weight for the last, number of years they've been in this league, given their budget with the resources they've got. But certainly, giving it a good go, that's for sure, and showing that there is some fight there still in that team to get him out of trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they do stay up. But, good friends with Gary, and he's a good manager. I'm not surprised that they've not sacked him, because I think he's the best chance they have of actually staying in the division. He's done it a number of times. And I actually joked before the season that with Chippenham, it's always a case of they play 46 games and they always finish 17th. And I think the way that they're going at the moment, I think they'd certainly take 17th. But they're still obviously playing for him because they're pulling out some good results.
Yeah, 100%. They are. I think it's a very together group in that they go by local talent. Players that have been around the lower leagues, and I think it gives them a bit more of an incentive. And I'm thinking even after picking up a result I did on Saturday, as much as it would have hurt to lose the 2-goal lead in the fashion they did, they would have taken a hell of a lot of confidence with that, thinking, look, you play like that for the rest of the season, you've got absolutely every chance in comparison to some of the sides that just leaguing goals for fun. So I don't think it's a done deal yet for Chippenham. I don't think they're going down with that fight just yet. So I'm with you, Joe. I would love to see him stay up. Like I said, I've got good, people down at Chippenham, so get on with media team. Jamie, looks after them really well. He's a lovely chap, and I really hope that they can put it out the bag second half of the season. So up the Bluebirds in that, as well, I say. Sam, onto the next slide, please, for us. Well, I won't touch on the Stones just yet. I'll leave it open to Christian. Any standouts for you in here?
It's up and down, isn't it? I think Hornchurch, to return to my title, obviously one that you'll come on to the second half of that, but did get it done against Dagenham and Redbridge very, very late, wasn't it? It was Josh Rees, the ex-Dagger, recovered the 3 points after the thrown away a 2-goal lead, and I'm sure they'd hope would kickstart a good Christmas, but clearly, and maybe teeing you up, Ben, not quite to be for them.
No, that's for sure. Well, I mean, I might as well touch on both games really whilst I'm here. I mean, Dover game wasn't, a classic derby game, typical, first half of, like I said, very few chances. I think Dover, it was quite clear from the offset that Dover were coming for a point, coming for a 0-0, and I think a lot of their fans even agreed with that. They were time wasting from very early on. But again, I don't think we played badly. We hit the crossbar, got into some good areas, just never really found that cutting edge. But second half, we dominated and we created a number of opportunities and, got a goal, and a man I was so pleased for because he's been, out of the goals for so long. Captain Corn Dog, as I call him on our social media feed. Sam Corn popping up with the winner with the sort of a header midway through the second half. Again, like I say, he's been the man that was a couple of years ago was smashing about 15 goals or something like that for us. I think he only managed 2 last year. He had a really bad season in terms of injuries and just couldn't get up to speed. But, I'm glad that George went with him for that game in terms of we needed that experience, I think, of those sort of derby games in that midfield because we've lacked that a little bit and that little bit of leadership. And he took a game to him. So, really pleased to come out of that. And I'm just more pleased that we managed to get a derby win on the board at last. So, that's finally ended that hoodoo after 2 consecutive ones in the league anyway. And then, let's say, Hornchurch, I turned up expecting our annual loss, as we always do, because in the time I've supported the club, which, going back as far as Ryman League days, we never beat them at their place, never beat them. And it's the first time in about 20 odd years that we've finally beaten them at their place. And again, fully deserved. We were absolutely outstanding. We were from start to finish. We knew the game plan was, obviously to try and frustrate them and just break things up as we usually do. And, and a man I've been pleased for, Leo Hamden, who's come into his own a little bit more at the left back position, putting a great cross for Sam Corn to knocks in. He waits a year or so for a goal. He gets 2 in 2 games. And again, another header, which sort of set us up. And I thought, okay, right, we sort of go and take the game to him a little bit, and then that was short-lived. Angelo Balanta showing his experience with another little dink over Nathan Harness. And again, we could have been 2-1 down before that. I think Junior Marias, and where's the old Junior Marias fan club? I need to talk to him about that, man. Because I tell you what, for a big fella, he half doesn't get himself about the pitch. I'll tell you that. So he was a threat to us all night. Probably should have put ahead actually, but it was a good save again from Harness to keep us in it. And then second half, I think we've probably shown we've been the better side. We probably had to sustain a little bit of pressure late on, but our super sub, our plan B, Mr. Hamza Kagbo comes off the bench, scores what maybe might have been a controversial winner. In my opinion, I think I'm going to be biased in the fact that I think it was a fair challenge with the goalkeeper. They've both gone up for it. The keeper's not taken full control, and Carbo has turned it in. With just a couple of minutes left, and I think we were all in a bit of a stage shock because we didn't know whether to celebrate or not. We expected the ref to half give it, but terrific, win, and it felt like a proper win. I think for the first time this season, it felt like a proper win. It did. Seeing those scenes in the away end, it was fantastic. I think I agree, Graham. I think everyone was probably assumed that we wouldn't be in the position we are at the moment, given obviously our inconsistency. And I really hope now the fact that we've got, I was going to say a couple of weeks ago, we got friendly now on Saturday, but we've got to start building towards that Torquay game, which obviously Joe will know all about. And especially 2 teams that are so close to each other. I'm looking forward to the battle, but hopefully with our good record against Torquay, it might continue. But, this one will be a different, I think a different sort of one in comparison to the trophy game a couple of months ago, that's for sure. Just going as well to the chat, I've slipped in Steve, obviously putting his match reports at Slough, trying to find all the ones. So obviously, big win for them at Maidenhead, their local rivals. Again, it's a cracking win for them. They took the lead after a miss-hit clearance from a corner. Fell kindly to their striker for a tap-in the second minute. We grew into the game and scored with our first effort after. Some lovely build-up play from us and a nice first touch finish just inside the area. The ref baffled everyone by sending off Slough's Basil Tuma in the 4th minute of added time in the first half. I must say that was never a red for me. Never in a million years. I must say, I've watched it back and it's a yellow at most. So I was quite surprised by that. It's a bad call when both managers agree it's never a red. But we came out second half, created 3 chances, scored 2 of them, and left Maidenhead taking pot shots from 25 yards out. And it was a great Boxing Day for us in the away end. And then following up, I think, we'll come on to the Cheshire game, obviously, but we in probably a minute, actually, to be fair, as we go into Saturday's results. But Scott Davis putting out of the bag, eh? But I think it's 3 wins on the trot now, if you're including Saturday. What a return from them, considering the struggles they've had with injuries this season.
Yeah. They've got those 3 wins in a row. I just checked it there. As they've had the injuries, it's really good for Scott Davis to be able to pull that out. They're up into 16th. They're 4 points outside the relegation zone, so they are slowly pulling themselves away. For Maidenhead, they couldn't really ask for a worse Christmas period. On the 20th, they draw with Hemel, which is a good point, but still, it's only a point. Then on Boxing Day, lose 3-1 in the derby. And then they can't even bounce back because their game against Ebbsfleet, I believe it was called off. They were able to turn it around on Saturday with a win, but now you look at a Christmas period, they were good before Christmas. They've started the new year well with a win, but it's just that little blip of not getting 1 point from a possible 3. Obviously, 1 was called off, so 1 point from a possible 2 isn't exactly how you want to spend your Christmas if you're Maidenhead. But they seem to have adapted all right since Devonshire left, and hopefully they can turn it around in the new year.
Yeah, a long way to go. So they're not that far off, and it's just a bit of inconsistency from them. But you have to recover from, like I say, a big derby defeat because it's not nice losing locals, particularly at home as well. So I would have certainly enjoyed that. I watched the highlights and they looked brilliant, to be fair, and deserved the winning, from my opinion, from what I saw of it. So cracking win for them. Sam, on to the next slide for us, please. I'll leave it open up to the floor, actually. Any standout results from anyone from this side?
If no one else has got any, Torquay beating Weston.
Of course, yes. To be fair, it's a great result. Do you want to talk to us about it, Jay?
Yeah, I was at the both of those games, actually.
Okay.
Weston was a really, really good performance. Bath was probably one of the worst games I've ever seen. So I'll focus on the game against Weston. Absolutely terrific. Louis Dennis completely ran the show. Another 2 goals for him. We got real joy in playing over the top of Weston's back line, using our pace in behind. Jordan Thomas has really grown into the season, was absolutely terrific. A right back, kept Luke Coulson really quiet throughout the game. It was a deserved win. Weston obviously got back into it with a rather dodgy close range cross, which didn't seem like the ref had blown for the restart, but Weston got on with it and put the ball in the box and scored whilst Torquay were waiting to see what had happened, but then went up the other end and scored through Louis Dennis. So, yeah, a really good performance for us. Obviously, Cody Cook back now in the squad after injury. Unfortunately, his introduction at Bath couldn't inspire us to get anything more than just a point. I think it was... I've been watching Torquay at Bath ever since they got in this league, and I think that's the poorest I've seen Bath. Really devoid of confidence. They didn't have any quality on the ball. I thought their home attendance was really quiet compared to usual. You usually go to Bath and you know you're going to get a really tough game. I actually looked at the stats at this one, and the crowd was down 1,400 on the last time that Torquay were there in a really big game a couple of years ago. So clearly the fans are voting with their feet as well, not impressed by what they're seeing. But yeah, a bit of a disappointing one for Torquay, given you'd have probably taken 4 points going into the festive games. But the fact they then beat Weston, you're disappointed it's only 4. Yeah, and then obviously our big trip to Dover, which got called off about 2 hours before. So Yeah, not much to be said on that one.
Yeah, I don't really want the show to get cancelled, to be honest. I will keep my views to myself on that, to be honest with you. So, just say it's not very pleasant, put it that way. That's over for you, isn't it? I know as well that sort of really getting sucked into that relegation battle now is Tunbridge, isn't it? Losing to Ebbsfleet, which probably would have been expected, to be honest, away from home, but then losing a crucial game against Eastbourne, where they just every time they got back into it, they seemed to get pulled further away. But then again, a great win for Eastbourne as well on the road, a side that they really needed points off.
They've lost Pemi Aderoju now, though, haven't they, Eastbourne?
Yeah.
Someone we had at Boston last season. And I'll be honest, I didn't see 20 goals in half a season in him when he was at Boston, with probably less service. But he's gone back, and he came on for Peterborough at Lincoln in League One on Sunday, as it was. Eastbourne, I didn't remember when they popped up. Absolute chaos there. Last 8 games, won 3, lost 5, scored 19, conceded 23. So you're going to see goals if you go and watch Eastbourne. You just don't know whether it's going to be a thriller like that one was, or it's going to be like the other week when they won 6-0 and lost 7-0.
Yeah. I know Rob knows all about Tommy Widgerington Bowl in terms of that he doesn't make things dull, put it that way. So I would certainly pay to go and watch Eastbourne if I know I'm going to get goals every single week. It's more of a case of what end it's going to be at. So, but I'm sure if they get 4 frees throughout the rest of the season and they stay up by a point, then I think their supporters go, look, it's relief more than anything, because they can't go down. It'd be an absolute disaster for them, wouldn't it? Again, I think, like I say, just touching on as well, Worthing as well, pick up a couple of results, including a 3-0 win over Eastbourne, but then following up, I think we touched on it as well with that 3-2 win over Dorking, showing that they are being serious about really going for that league title. They're in incredible form, blistering form since Adam Hitchell has gone back in. So I'll be interested to see again if they freshen things up and whether they can continue that form, because at the moment I just can't see anyone that stops them really. So. I'll see how that goes. I think this will bring us, hope it's Sam, to quickly just onto Saturday's results, which I know there wasn't too many of. I'll say there wasn't too many of them. Okay, it's probably about half the division that probably played. I'll leave it open to the floor again quickly. Any standout results for anyone?
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe, carry on.
Go on, Morgan.
I was going to say Worthing. I know we've just touched on them, but the fact that it's 2 teams at like the opposite end of the table, it's top v bottom, and Worthing scrape a point out of that with 2 very, very late goals. I think it was the 87th and 97th minute to get 2-1 and then 2-2, which is crushing for Chippenham, because when you're scrapping down there, you're trying to get any win you can. And away at top of the league, it's not quite fairy tale stuff, but it's not far from it, thinking that's somewhere you'd never go and win, especially with how good Adam Hinchelwood has made that Worthing team since going back earlier this year. So for Chippenham to be 2-0 up, and I can imagine there's only a level of nerve setting in, be like, we're going to do it. Then you can see in the 87th and you're thinking, okay, the clean sheet's gone. That's frustrating. But to have that real kick in the teeth of that 97th minute equaliser, it's what champions do. But at the other end of the table, that's where you need to hold on and get your win. You need to put everyone behind the ball, and you can't let that ball hit the back of your net. Yeah.
I think I can see how much it hurt their players as well. All of them are on pretty much in the floor. You think, look, you're 3 minutes away from winning the game. Would have been a huge one for them, but that's just been the story of their season, really, hasn't it? So it's probably no surprise in that. Just quick as well, because I've seen Steve's obviously put his match report in as well from the Chesham game. Obviously, was it Chesham at home? Was it?
Eastbourne.
It looks like they played Eastbourne. Unless they were talking about another one potentially, I might have missed that. I think I'm looking at the wrong comments, to be honest. So Eastbourne at home started really slow. Then Eastbourne were fully deserving of taking the lead for our former striker George Alexander. Grateful didn't celebrate it, but on 30 minutes, captain Kiki volleyed home from inside the box after a corner was cleared and then delivered back into the area, bringing us back into the game. We had a goal correctly disallowed after Dice punched the ball in. Maradona in disguise. From a corner we had in time, but the second half we came out, defended well and attacked dangerously, getting the winner in the 60th minute. Scotty, despite happy with the win, was quite disappointed in our performance, but I thought we were better than that, and we looked really comfortable in the final 30 minutes at 2-1. And I think as well, I just saw obviously onto the end of his Cheshire report saying that he signed another deal as well, huge business as well for Slough, isn't it? That they've managed to keep hold of him, because I was starting to think that other clubs will come sniffing around with him. Probably one of the best young coaches in this division, would we say?
Yeah, I was actually at the game. I was going to go. I was in London all weekend, so I was going to go and watch the Aldershot game, but that was postponed. So thought I'd make the trip down to watch Slough and spoke to Scotty Davis on the fact that he signed obviously that new contract for the podcast for NL full time, which went up today. And yeah, I perhaps wouldn't agree that they were disappointing. I thought over the whole game, I thought Slough were the better side. And credit has to go to Scotty for his recruitment, because 3 players that really stood out for me: Kiki Osalaja with the first goal, Victor Mikowski with the second goal, and I thought Jared Myers as well on the wing was really good. All 3 of them were signed from really low down in the pyramid. Mikowski came from Flackwell Heath, Jared Myers came from Bedford Spons, and Kiki Osalaja came from Cray Valley Paper Mills. So 3 players who he's had to sign from really low down, and all 3 of them I thought were absolutely brilliant. So yeah, deserved win for Slough. I thought that over the 90, they're the better team.
Yeah, definitely. Just obviously touching on the other results as well in the division. AFC Tottenham 3, Enfield Town 2. Need a win there for Tottenham, who've been really slipping down the table in recent weeks. So obviously the home record proving dividends once more. Hemel Hempstead 1, Dagenham Redbridge 0. Horsham 1, Maidenhead United 2, Tonbridge Angels 2, Dorking Wanderers 2, and Western-super-Mare 4, Farnborough 1. So probably some real, non-shock results, I'd say, in terms of the contents of the table. So probably not many big stories, maybe apart from Worthing chipping in. I'm guessing this one, but obviously 5 games being postponed over the weekend as well. So a nice little Monday night trip to Chelmsford for the Stones at least beckons, and obviously a nice long trip for Torquay. So I can't really complain on that one.
Huge win for Western as well at the start of the big few weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
They're due to be at Grimsby on Saturday. I did mention in the live chat, I think, given the weather that's coming and the fact it's a cup and trophy weekend this weekend, there's going to be some fixture chaos coming, folks. Those games will want to be played in the next coming 2 midweeks, regardless of what's in there league-wise. So could be a bit chaotic, particularly for Western if they've got to come up to Grimsby on a Tuesday night. And I mentioned those 2 Worthing games. They've actually got Hornchurch before that as well. So they've got a 3rd round of the Cup game, Western, and then they've got both Hornchurch and Worthing at home, and they visit Worthing as well. It's season defining, really, I think, for them. And they've started January with back-to-back wins.
Yeah, I was thinking if they can get a result at Grimsby, will it affect their league form? That would be the big question, I think. But I think we would fair to say, obviously, as non-league fans, really hope that Western go and do it. Obviously get into the 4th round for the first time in their history. Obviously it's a game they can win. So there's certainly no knocking that. But like I say, Grimsby, if they lose, I'm just thinking, Sam, if they beat Grimsby, does that make them a better side than Man United potentially?
After what's happened today, I'm not talking anything about Man United this evening. So
we won't go there. Sore subject. I'll tell you what you can do. Take your mind off it. You can bring us up the league table before we move to the National North. So top of the table, it's ever changed once more. It's Worthing at the top with 49 points. Western-super-Mare in 2nd on 48 points. Hornchurch dropped to 3rd on 46 points. Dorking Wanderers 4th on 44 points. Torquay United in 5th with 43 points. Hemel Hempstead 6th on 42 points. And occupying that last playoff spot is Maidstone United on 39 points. God, I've missed saying that. And in the relegation zone, we've got Hampton and Richmond in 21st on 24 points. Eastbourne Borough on 21 points. Enfield Town 23rd with 20 points. And bottom of the table still are Chippenham Town with 17 points. And I think that brings us now to the National League North. So any National League North fans, get your match reports in. Apologies, you've had to be quite patient tonight. We've had a lot of games to get through. But if you have got a story in that, I know if Spenny fan Chris is in the chat, get that match report in from spending more games over the Christmas period. We'll start off, Jen. Start us off. Any standouts for you from the National North on this page?
I'd probably go with Kidderminster. I know we are due to play them on the Saturday. Whether it goes ahead or not, who knows? It's a 3-hour drive. Let's not talk about it. But yeah, they are putting in some good results at the minute, like really good results, and they're sitting comfortably in 4th as well. So I think for them, it's a huge playoff push for them. And I think there's the team that you don't expect to be there, and they're kind of just there, but they're proving that they deserve to be there as well, which is a great thing. So we'll see what Saturday brings if it goes ahead.
Yeah, I think they've probably underachieved this year, but they are slowly starting to chip off those points now. I think it was a slow start to the season that's ultimately cost them maybe to be in the title race perhaps, but in 20 odd games, who knows? The 10 points is quite a lot to make up, but
Yeah.
Again, I say they get a result on Saturday, in the trophy, then
Yeah.
they might start to turn to maybe a possible trip to Wembley. It's so difficult, it is, but yeah, no, that's two much needed wins for them over that period. Christian, any standouts for you?
I was going to say Kidderminster just missed off 5 clean sheets in a row for them now, 4 in the league and 1 in the trophy. 1-0 win at home to Hereford. And I believe it was 1-0 against Curzon on Saturday, which I know we'll come to. Kings Lynn faltering, conceding goals. They lost 1-0 at Merthyr as well. I know it's been a rebuild job there. I know Ian Culverhouse assistant Paul Bastock fairly well from his time at Boston, and he was saying it really is a mid-season rebuild, similar to when they came into Boston. So I suppose safety is the key for them. Safety is where they currently are. They're 6 points off it, but yeah, we'll see. If Hereford can turn things around after that late point at Merthyr, then that's one team you'd imagine, stature of their club should be big enough, if that counts for anything in football, to get out of trouble. So we'll see. Kings Lynn want to make sure they're not kind of next cab off the rank. At the minute, they're not. But yeah, results like the 4-2 at Bedford don't help.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's always a tough one for Kings Lynn. Like I say, the standards have sort of dropped there a little bit. They've had a couple of periods where they've been in that playoff zone. They've really been challenging for it, and let's say expectations have suddenly dropped a little bit. But I think it's sometimes you do get a season like this where you just need to get through it, make sure you don't go out of the division, because it becomes a harder rebuild job. So I think they need to look, like I say, I think safety is the ultimate key. And Ian Culver has, albeit didn't quite manage it with St Albans last year in the National South. I think he knows that he's going to have more resources at his disposal with Kings Lynn. So for his sake,
it's his patch as well, Ian.
Yeah.
Norfolk based. I think quite understandable, really, given the nature of the first manager they had at Kings Lynn and the exit around all of that. That could have been very, very destabilising. Anyone wondering why we're not putting meat on those bones, please do go and research and see what the press have put out. They're more qualified and know more than we do and know what we can and can't say. But that was very destabilising. Joe Simpson did a good job in the interim. And then if they stay up, I think it's a success. They have changed ownership, as much as Stephen Cleaver is still involved and very busy on X at times. He's not the man with all the reins in his hands anymore. An Asian consortium took over there. Not one that's throwing around millions of pounds, it seems, but a fresh start at Kings Lynn, albeit with a return to Ian Culverhouse, who of course got them to the National League in the middle of COVID, and might well be plotting a similar course for next season.
Yeah, definitely. Just going into the chat as well, because I've just seen Matt's put a comment in saying Kidderminster were 1 win away from being champions last season. They then slipped into the playoffs and missed out on promotion, so they'll be keen to go up this season. Yeah, I think a lot of us put them, heavy on favourites to win the league, to be fair. So it's a bit surprised that 4th was probably the bare minimum they should be at the moment, really. But again, like I say, South Shields have started to have a couple of dips, a couple of results here and there where it's not quite their way. I know they picked up a good result against, obviously, Spennymoor over which might be a bit of a touchy one for Chris in the chat. So I know he's probably put his probably match report, which I think is very, very short, just freaking frustrating, losing 6-0 away on Boxing Day, embarrassing performance. It's a good thing you're away for it, isn't it? So you didn't have to put up with it, that's for sure. As well, just to say a couple of other probably results there. Curzon Ashton losing at home to Radcliffe, but picking up a good win against Southport. Again, Curzon Ashton just slowly, staying in that pack, aren't they? In that playoff zone, aren't they? Because again, they've been a bit up and down. They've been in and out of the playoffs probably since the beginning of the season, but showing that. But again, they're showing signs that they are serious contenders and really want to give it a good go at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mark Bradshaw's doing a pretty decent job. Always lose players from season to season. His obviously first year as a full-time, as the permanent manager at Curzon. And in the last couple of seasons, they've been a team that have either been the right side or the wrong side of that line, but always fairly close to it. So, yeah, I think they'll be there or thereabouts in that sort of 7th to 9th spot until the end. It's whether they can find that consistency to actually go and, keep themselves the right side of the line. But, I think they've done a decent job. They haven't got the biggest of budgets. They always try and pick up players that perhaps other teams have moved on, or younger players. And, to bounce back with that win against Southport is just what they needed.
Yeah. One side, actually, I have noticed, though, they didn't make the cut on this graphic, only because they're the only team with a B in there, is Buxton. Only because Tom has put his comment in, saying decent results for Buxton over Christmas, with wins against Macclesfield and Worksop, draw against South Shields, need to get into that playoff zone as a full-time team. Do agree, but there's a lot of teams that have got that luxury now, so it really is now all to play for. There's going to be some very disappointed sides at the end of the season, but given the fact that Buxton is still fairly new to the full-time model, maybe 8th place isn't a bad reflection of where they are, really. Like I say, there's only a couple of points off the playoffs, so, coming next couple of weeks, they could be sitting comfortably in that top 7 again. Who knows? It's very tough to call at this stage. Actually, there is the other side. I didn't realise that. Did you miss one out by any chance, Sam?
I'm just testing your alphabet knowledge, Ben. You see, you're just, New Year 26 and all of that.
Oh, don't do that to me. I can't do my alphabets. Trust me. I was thinking to myself, did we really start the season? I thought there was more than that. So we'll just quickly touch on this side. Morgan, as you come back into the stream after your little technology mishap, any standouts for you on this slide?
Yeah, sorry about that. Laptop randomly didn't want to do the podcast anymore. Filed, I think, win against Chorley. It's another good win. Obviously, in that title race, them and South Shields, when they go into a game, they expect South Shields to win. It's one of them where you're just having to kind of match the other's result. Dropping points in that 3-3, though, they're winning quite comfortably, I think, as well. Conceded 91st and 94th minute to go from 3-1 up in the 90th minute to drawing 3-3 away at Radcliffe. And we've spoken about Bernard and John O teams in the past and how kind of resilient they can be, and they're quite active on social media as well in terms of how resilient they are as people and stuff like this. So it's not massively surprising that it is built into their teams, but if you're trying to win the National League North or South, with how competitive those title races can be, you can't be dropping those points. So good win filed, and at the weekend I think they kind of got their not quite revenge, but they won and South Shields dropped points, so it kind of swung back round, and they are only 2 points off again. So it's rough result there, but by the start of January it might figure itself out, and if they can just keep on what they were doing with Ormerod and Luca Thomas playing as well as they were, then hopefully we've got a good title race to watch between now and the end of April.
Yeah, definitely. At the other end of the table, though, we've got Alfreton Town, who've had a bit of an indifferent sort of Christmas period, losing to Worksop, but then finding a win against Leamington. And obviously, we'll come on to Leamington, because obviously there's been a bit of change there, in terms of management in the last couple of weeks or so. But again, it's a big win for Alfreton, who, like I say, they're clinging on to, that sort of safety. They might think, well, in terms of fact, they've just dropped into it on goal difference, but, still with the game in hand over Peterborough Sports. What are we making of them at the moment, guys?
Yeah, I mean, they're a tricky one. Obviously, they made that change, didn't they? The managerial decision with Billy Heath leaving the club, going for a young coach in Jake Buxton, his first gig in management. And they haven't really been able to get any consistency. They have, a good result, and then they follow up with a poor result like they did in those Christmas fixtures. And I think he's still trying to work himself out as a manager, probably. In terms of how he's going to consistently get results at this level. They've added a couple of players to their team. They did actually manage to keep hold of Bailey McCann in midweek. He's actually on loan at Alfreton, but he's signed for Doncaster to play under his dad, Grant McCann, albeit has been loaned back to Alfreton. I think those are the sorts of games in the situation Alfreton are that you've got to be beating the likes of Leamington, really, if you're going to stand a chance. They haven't quite got going yet for me under him.
Yeah, definitely. I think, let's say, we'll move on to the side after next, I think, because we've already covered the other lot. So we will actually touch on Leamington. because obviously they've had a bit of managerial change in that. What are we making it? So it's 16 years, wasn't it? And so I think one of the longest serving managers in the top 6-7 divisions. Bit of a shock, isn't it? But was it a change that needed to be made though?
Yeah, I think probably. I think he himself probably knows that he's taken Leamington probably as far as he can, and I think it's probably right that he steps aside. He's done a fantastic job, Paul Holleran. Obviously, had his health issues as well. Someone that whenever I've spoken to people that know him, they always speak really highly of him. And a proper non-league manager, really well respected. And I'm sure that whilst he may not be manager of Leamington, I'm sure he'll still be popping down to the ground and supporting them on a Saturday. So yes, I would say we wish him well in his retirement, but I doubt he'll be doing much retiring, and I'm sure he'll still be as active as ever.
Yeah, like I say, it is a big loss when you've had a manager for so long, and particularly the journey that he's taken them on to become, obviously up until this point, he's become an established National League North club, which again for a club of their size, is probably better than they could have hoped for. To be honest, I mean, obviously got on promotion. I think it was a fair few years ago. Was it beating Hitchin? Was it in the final? A game like I say, I know they do really good media coverage. They do at Leamington. I do tend to follow their results a little bit. And like I say, I think like Paul Holleran's done an unbelievable job, and like I say, for 16 years worth, he must have done something right to keep it going for that much. Like I think you've just said to me, Joe, things like I say 789 games in charge. That's quite some achievement at any level. But like I say, in this this era now, even in non-league, it's one heck of an achievement to have something like that. So like I say, we wish him all well, but I don't think that's the last you see of him personally. I think he'll certainly be back. He might take a bit of time out, but like I say, I think he'll always be a Leamington fan. If you're at a club for that long, you're always going to be a fan, aren't you? So yeah, no, it's disappointing for them, but look, they need a new era, I think, and they've got to do it before it's too late, because obviously they want to hold on to their National North status, that's for sure, whilst they've still got a fighting chance. Jen, any full results for you on this slide?
Probably Merthyr, again, a team that's really fighting at the top this season, and obviously they did get a draw, but they're still in the fight, they're still in the playoffs. There's only 6 points to the top of the table, so a couple of wins and they can be up there. But yeah, I definitely think they're a team to keep an eye on for sure. But the one that you didn't expect or think would be near the top, but hopefully they can keep going with the results, and who knows where they could be next year. Yeah,
definitely. I think it's but obviously the big question, obviously we touched on it with Forest Green, is are they going to be able to cope without Ricardo Reis now? Obviously with his goals affected now in terms of where they finished in the season. Will they start to drop off? But have they still got the quality to stay in that top 7? What are we thinking?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say to Merthyr fans, if they are feeling that they may drop off, is they always score goals, and it doesn't really matter which striker they've got. They always find a way to break teams down. And I think that's certainly, if you're Paul Michael, the Merthyr manager, that's the sell that you give to a prospective striker coming in. The fact that Ricardo Reis was able to hit the numbers that he did, the fact that Kane Simpson managed to get, was it nearly 20 goals in that team? Whoever plays in that team, they always create a good number of chances. So, I think they will recruit fairly well. No doubt, obviously, they would have made a bit of money off Ricardo Reis's exit, and they'll be able to invest that because they probably realise that they are well ahead of where they expected they would be, and that potentially this is the time to go and find that striker to replace him. So I think they'll be fine. They're a really, really well coached team.
Yeah, well, the good news is for them is that they've already reached that 50-point mark. So at least you can say they're going to be safe in the division for next year, which I guess ultimately would have been their aim. And the fact they're in third, is way better than they could have hoped for. So I think that's probably a good time to, if you're going to let your top scorer go, probably not the worst time to let him go. Christian, I know you wanted to touch on Macclesfield. That's a couple of really disappointing results for them over that Christmas period.
Yeah, I think it's right Matt get a mention. Returning to action after the loss of Ethan McLeod. They postponed the one game at Alfreton, but with that 3G pitch at Moss Rose, were able to play on Boxing Day, lost 2-0 in front of a big crowd against Buxton. No shame in that. And then a rare home win for Chester, who avoided comment when their name was up earlier. Macclesfield losing 2-0 there. And I don't know whether this game went in before or after the FA Cup round was, but I'm a bit surprised to see they've got the game in tomorrow night. Macclesfield at home to Radcliffe, when they've got that big cup tie with Crystal Palace to prepare for at the weekend. I think it always benefits the league to give teams the best chance. And I don't know, maybe Macclesfield feel the best chance is to keep playing and try and get some momentum back. But yeah, a slightly strange one, although I suppose Crystal Palace are playing on Wednesday, aren't they? So
yeah,
a slight advantage there. But no, difficult return to action for Mac. Like Chester, they're in the bottom half of the table, but they're only a couple of results away from the playoffs. And I think those points are more important than the league position, really. In Macclesfield's case, 6 points off, 3 games in hand. They'll still feel that it's in their hands, really.
Yeah, I think, like I said, and just in Matt's comment as well, I think he's probably right in terms of the fact that they probably are a little bit distracted at the moment. Obviously for a number of reasons, like I say, because of the loss of Ethan McLeod, and obviously with probably the biggest game in their recent history, coming up against Crystal Palace. You can't not. You're only human if you don't have your eye on that sort of game. It's going to be live on the BBC. At home, you have a full house, and they'll probably think they've actually got a chance at home of beating them. So, you're not human if you haven't got, you're not starting to think about it a little bit. So, I think they could be forgiven a little bit in their recent form, but I think they need a big, at least a big performance against Radcliffe tomorrow, to take them into that game on Saturday with a little bit of momentum, because I think it's so important for them, and particularly for making the Moss Rose, a fortress, which we know it has been in recent years. So it's been a little bit of a different feel, I think, in recent times for them. I know obviously Matt would have been to Marine, came to away. So he went, I think it was the Marine Sapporo game I think he attended. So we got Marine came away with the win in front of a 2,300 full house, thanks to defensive errors from Southport and a great performance up front from Zanzella. Bobby Grant working wonders. Still, being established in that level, they're only a couple of points off the playoffs. So I think you're looking at between 7th and I think it's 13th at the moment. There's only 3 points that separate it. So, we've obviously talked about title races in the past, but the playoff picture is just, looking epic at the moment, where, one result could, take Chester in a goal difference to -1 into that top 7. It's crazy how open it's been this year.
It's a nice little build from Marine as well. Consider they finished 15th last year. If they can take that extra step, maybe sneak into playoffs, finish 7th, even if they don't go up, because of how strong Merthyr and South Shields and Fylde and Kidderminster and the other playoff teams are, it's just that extra step of saying, okay, our season didn't finish after 46 games. We got that extra game. We got to play the lottery, because that's what the playoffs are. You're buying as many tickets as possible, but it is still a lottery. So if they can take that step and go from 15th to 7th, start next year, they're thinking, well, why can't we finish 4th, 5th and give ourselves that extra chance? Maybe can we even somehow upset the odds, finish 2nd or 3rd and get that bye week and not have to play that extra round where your season can end in a disappointing fashion. You can at least have an extra week to build everything up. So it'll be good for Marine if they can take advantage of the chaos that is the National League North, sneak into the playoffs and then see what they can do next season.
Definitely. I totally agree with that one. If we go on to the next slide, please, Sam. Everyone's still up today. Oh, there we go. We're back in. Well, I know obviously Standout Chris, and he hasn't disappointed. He has sent his match report in from the Scarborough game. Obviously, we've already touched on the South Shields 6-0 demolition. Scarborough obviously picked up a 1-1 draw in that one. Our usual draw against Scarborough in a season happened. Heaney scoring in the 2nd minute, but a lovely goal from Maloney equalised for Borough. That's quite a short, manageable for you, Chris. I was expecting like 2 or 3 pages of it, to be honest. But, again, I say no. That's another solid point. You always find after a heavy defeat, you've got to find a reaction, and always find that a lot of teams go and try to be more, defensive minded and make sure they keep a shadow, albeit it was a 1-1 draw. They've still managed to get the point on the board, haven't they? So, and again, still in touch with the playoffs. But I think that goal difference has hit them a little bit hard, though, hasn't it? Because they've gone from, just about in the positives to a -5 now. And could that hit them hard at the end of the season, do we think?
I think anything in National League North can make a difference. Like we speak about, we've seen, we're talking about National League South, the title was decided on goal difference. I think in these leagues, literally anything, like whether it's goal difference, points, whatever it is, goals scored might even come into it. it's just anything could be an advantage or a disadvantage by the end of the season, because a lot's going to happen between now and 46 games.
Definitely. Yeah.
I mean, you look at Scarborough in that regard. Their form: 2 wins, 5 draws, and 6 defeats. Their latest run, and they've gone from about 5th down to 6th. So it just goes to show that you're not always punished. I think that was the big game for me in the north at the bottom end of the playoffs. That Scarborough-Darlington game, and it went via a Toby Lee's header in the first half. A man who's got a Christmas birthday. Popped up 24 hours later and did the deal for Darlington, who are just clinging on in there. It's been a while since we saw them up at that level. They did qualify for the playoffs in their first year in the National League North. I remember that. I think it would have been 9 or 10 years ago now. Didn't have enough seats at Blackwell Meadows, and they've never got back since. So they'll feel this is long overdue. They've got no power, the likes of Will Hayfield and Tom Platt in that midfield. A bit of quality and a bit of experience in the playoffs in the National League North, and they'll hope they can stay the course. That bottom end of the North is really, really interesting. There's a lot of teams fighting and kind of falling over themselves to be there. And again, if there's disruption with pitches and the cup and the trophy coming up, it might not change too much for the next couple of weeks, but there'll be a mad March time where everything suddenly clicks for somebody. It could be a Mac or a Chorley that are down there in the mid-table regions at the minute, but that 3 points at Scarborough keeps Darlow in the mix.
Definitely. I'd say just at the other end of the table, well, not the best Christmas period for Southport, who've been sucked back into that relegation fight again, and obviously conceding 8 goals in the process. Obviously 4-2 defeats against both Marine and Curzon Ashton. Again, Southport, we sort of thought that they'd be down probably that end of the table again, but they are really starting to leak goals a little bit now. I think that's 42 conceded. And, again, they do know where the back of the net is, but ultimately they've been let down at, defensively again. I mean, it's been a tough off season, though, for Southport, probably for the last few years, but they really are starting to get sucked right back in now, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I think it's true in the North. We often see, and you can apply this to Alfreton as well, and Hereford. If you kind of just tread water for a couple of years in the National League North, you tend to get stung. It doesn't tend to be that you suddenly have that year where it all clicks again and you go forward without a bit of a spark. And, Hereford have missed out on playoffs on the last day a couple of years ago. Southport have kind of flattered to deceive at times, and Alfreton have had 2 or 3 playoff campaigns, but not even the rot sets in. I think just you stand still and everyone overtakes you. And there's 3 teams that have been at that level for a long time that look like dropping out the wrong end of it now. A world away from those days in or just around the playoffs that they've all enjoyed.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a culture shock for them, because I always remember Southport as an established National League club. And, obviously I know they've had problems, I think, with ownership and, it's just like a lot of issues off the pitch have ultimately left them down in this position. And that's like just trying to find their way back, because you look at the facilities, you look at the stadium, it is a National League ground for me. And I think there is certainly potential there, but they just need maybe a little bit more help financially. And like I say, you just need, like I think you alluded to, Chris, I mean, they just need that spark as well. And, that will really kickstart them again. It is, quite key in that, to be honest. So, it's been a tough one for them, but I'm sure, like I say, they'll come out the other side, they'll find something in that, because, they've got a lot of experience in that. And I can't see them slipping down, to be honest, but it's going to be quite close come the end of the season. I think it should lead us to Saturday fixtures again, Sam, which I don't know if there was too many, given obviously how many were up north. Oh, we're up to the National South results again.
It's probably broken now.
It's probably where we probably wasn't actually many results from the weekend, to be honest. There we go. Okay, so to be fair few games, and considering that obviously we know what the weather could be like up north. Sorry, Northern guys. I'll leave it open to the panel on this one. Any standouts from Saturday?
I know we've mentioned it already slightly before, but Merthyr winning a game without Ricardo Reis, it's been a question we've asked for ages. When he leaves, how do they cope? And it's only one game. And I know, Christian, you spoke about Kings Lynn's troubles this year, change of management and the agent consortium and everything that's taken over. Kings Lynn aren't in the strongest position, and it is a home game for Merthyr, so they have had some things on their side. But losing your best striker is never going to be easy, but very solid for them to get the 1-0 win.
Yeah, definitely. I think just look as well, because I've got their fixtures in front of me, and the next 3 games are actually quite favourable for them in terms of they've got to go to Worksop, Peterborough Sports at home, and then follow a away trip to Southport. All very winnable games for them. And I think if they can get a good at least 6-7 points out of that, you do start to think that maybe they have got the potential. And it's not a one-man team, because everyone will look at it and think, oh, they've lost a star striker now. They're going to slip off the the top of the table and even maybe towards out of the playoffs. But I just think if you've got momentum, and I think a lot of teams won't rely on one player. I like to think not, and that they built a good momentum down there from promotion last year, and it's clearly showing for them again. So the fact they've already got off to a winning start will give a player a little bit of relief in that, because obviously there would have been all that talk about before a pre-match about how do they cope about Ricardo Reis. So it's an important result for them. Jen, are there any pickups for you at all from the weekend?
I'd probably say South Shields. They're just obviously they're on a roll at the minute, and I just think there's genuinely no stopping them. I just think I just think they're going to do it. I just think so.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the full-time model and that they've done it for a couple of years now. It is. The only thing is they are vulnerable though to a bit of a heavy defeat. That's the thing. It's not been quite plain sailing for them. Albeit defensively, they've actually been superb this year. I think only conceded 20 goals in the 25 games. But you do just think, will the experience of AFC filed, obviously at this level, bode better maybe for them, because obviously it's a new situation really for South Shields, where maybe playoffs would have been the aim for them, maybe towards potential of a title. But the fact that South Shields, are right in the mix now, and it's a case of can they hold their nerve, and whenever Shields, South Shields and Fylde come up against each other again, that will certainly, I'm not say be the title decider, but it could well be quite key to psychologically to who goes on maybe and maybe wins the division. Personally, I think it's going to be a 2-horse race. Personally, I think Merthyr will slip away slightly, maybe not necessarily outside the playoffs, but I think they'll be between those two. Any other results?
Sorry, Ben. I was just going to say that South Shields Fylde game, Shields have got them both to come to the Northeast. They've got Merthyr in March time. And actually, I did spot on the last day of the season in the North, the current top 4 play each other. If it did tighten up, could be a really, really interesting day in prospect. It doesn't tend to go that way, does it? But I just wanted to mention, actually, that the one team, through a technical glitch that's been missed out on that graphic, was Worksop winning 1-0 at Chester. They've won 3 and drawn 2 of their last 6. They've done the double over Chester this year. Just 4 wins, I think it is, at the Diva for Callum McIntyre's team, who, as I mentioned when speaking about Macclesfield, aren't far off the playoffs points-wise, but are down in 13th or 14th. And, really good work from Worksop. They've tended to do it against teams you wouldn't expect, and then trip up against the likes of Alfreton and Southport and Leamington, but they've been taking points off them recently as well. And they'll feel if they can just establish themselves for a couple of years in that sort of 16th spot where they are now, and then try and kick on like we've seen Curzon do at this level. So, really good month for Worksop Town.
Yeah, pulled away as well from that bottom 4. I think that's 7 points now they've moved away from. And I think that was always key, for them, is obviously to just stay in the division. We've said it from the start. See, I think a lot of the promoted teams would have taken that. But the fact is that they've shown, and a bit like, Bedford as well, that they can compete at this level. It's not been, too bad for them. Obviously, they've been a bit inconsistent, but they're probably in the positions I would have expected them to be in. But like I say, I think if you get any double over any side in the division, it's good. But against a side like, well-established side like Chester, who, again, like I say, we've been touching distance of the players. So the table might not say that, but, talking 3 points off, it could well be changed in the next few weeks or so. It's just been that open of a division. But, I think in terms of, the relegation battle, I think you're probably looking from below Bedford is probably where the teams have got to worry slightly at the moment. Obviously with the gap between only 2 points between Southport and Alfreton, who are just occupying that last relegation spot. So it is certainly, like I say, setting up for an exciting second half of the season. Like I say, with that title race as well coming into it, I would love to see it go to the last day of the season once again, and particularly, with Shields and Fylde both going for it at the moment. And like I say, wouldn't write off Merthyr to still be in there. And even to a certain extent, if they can maintain some good form, Kidderminster Harriers. So it really is, setting up for hopefully an exciting second of the National Novel, which we know that they can provide that, and hopefully the same for the National South as well. Anyone else got anything to want to touch on with this? Are we all quite happy? No? Sam, bring us on to the league table at last. So we've got top of the table is South Shields on 56 points. We've got AFC Fylde second on 54 points. Merthyr are third on 50 points. Kidderminster Harriers fourth on 46. Radcliffe sitting fifth on 40 points. Scarborough sitting sixth on 37 points, and taking the last playoff spot so far is Darlington, seventh on 36 points. And in the bottom four, we have Alfreton Town, 21st on 22 points. Oxford City, 22nd on 21 points. Hereford, 23rd with 21 points. And bottom of the table are Leamington, 14 points. Sam, I thank you for your patience once more. 2 hours, just over 2 hours, but you've survived us. And I feel like every week now your non-league knowledge is getting better and better now because you're taking it all on board, aren't you? You're not.
This is it. Everything is becoming more than places I drive past on the motorway. I'm getting affiliations with all these clubs. I'm a fan of so many already. But no, well done to all of you guys because there were so many games to cover in detail, and I think you did a fantastic job. And well done everyone for doing it, and including Morgan, who's back as well. He's made it for injury time. But no, thank you everybody. Thank you everybody in the chat for joining us as well, and joining everyone with your chats and your match reports and everything. It really makes the show fantastic. But all that's left to do really is to go around the room where everyone can follow these wonderful people and all of their superb non-league knowledge. Jen, where can we find you?
So it's Jen Hunt _ on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You'll find me on there.
Wonderful. And of course, the Superman, the host himself, getting very good at this, Ben. You know what I mean? I'll be out of a job soon if I'm not careful. But, where can everybody find all of your wonderful content?
Well, I would say content, but if you want to follow me, it's Ben Stones FC1 on Twitter, not X, Twitter.
This is it, the real one. There you go. Graham giving you some love on the hosting as well. Morgan, how about you? Where can everybody find you?
On Twitter @_Morgan_Bruce, and in York Press for weekly previews of the York City games.
Wonderful. Do check Morgan out. And Christian as well. Where's all of your stuff?
Well, you can start with me on X at Boston UTD Stats. Obviously, the NL Full-Time podcast with Joe as well. And I'll give Joe the big build-up, but we did just want to mention that we've got quite an exciting quiz coming up, which I think Morgan had a sneak preview of. So we'll be sending some bribes across later, which questions we need to check answers for between now and Thursday. But I'll let Joe say who the guests are. There's 4 of us from the NL Full-Time team on there. It's going to be 2 teams of 4. So, 4 of us and then 4 guests. One to look out for at the weekend, if not before. Some really exciting names, which I'll let Joe do.
Yeah, so Rob's managed to do a bit of wheeling and dealing, managed to get us a couple of really good guests to complete the team. So we got Callum Reynolds of Boreham Wood, obviously doing really well in the league. Tyler Frost, of course, had to be a shots representative, as well as we've pulled in the big hitters. Aaron McLean, he doesn't do as much non-league this at the moment, but he is back with us for the podcast. And of course, Mark White is back on the podcast for the quiz to make up the team. So it should be a really good. Really looking forward to that on Thursday evening.
Sound epic. And so make sure you're following NL Full-Time for that, and if not, on the Twitter, on all their socials, etc., they'll be advertising that, so don't miss a bit. And also, Spenny fan Chris said congratulations to NL Full-Time and Joe for being nominated for the Deck Awards for the NL Social Page of the Year, so congratulations guys. Fantastic. Do go and vote for NL Full-Time. I think we're up for a couple of, I think we're up for podcasting. The wonderful Shah is up for, I'm not sure what the category is, absolute legend I'm going to call it, so do make sure you vote for her in that category as well. Fantastic and wonderful. Check everybody out, but also we are back fully. I'll bring Morgan back in as well. We are back fully 4 times this week. It is 2026. We have podcasts coming out of our ears. It is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And Monday night is, of course, the Absolutely Non-League show, 8:30 live. Tomorrow is the Absolutely Premier League show, but it is actually a live watch-along because it is West Ham versus Nottingham Forest in the Nuno Espirito Santo derby, 6-point massive clash at the bottom end of the Premier League. And I will sort of just touch on this. Yes, we will probably mention Manchester United and the fact that Ruben Amorim has been sacked. Myself and Grimmy are on it tomorrow, and Heather will be trying to hold court, I think, between us. But don't worry, I'm sure during the game that we will we'll try and talk about West Ham versus Nottingham Forest as well as that discussion. That is tomorrow on Tuesday. It'll probably be about 10 to 8, I think, before the 8 o'clock kickoff. We've also got on Wednesday, they're back, Team Chaos, absolutely women's football show. They are back with Freya Paul and the team. They're talking everything women's football transfers at the minute before the WSL and WSL2 returns. And on Thursday, I'm back again doing the absolutely lower league. We've got, would you believe, I'm not sure how we're going to manage this. There were 4 games over the festive period. So I might have to look at how we manage that, or we could be on for 17 hours, I think, trying to cover all of that. So we might have to hold court how we do that. But that is, of course, covering Championship, League One, and League Two with the Rowdy Rabble on a Thursday. We'll be back. You can check us out on Twitter, Absolute Ball Pod, YouTube, Absolute Football Podcast, and Twitch, TikTok, Absolute Football Pod, Instagram, Absolute Football Podcast _, Blue Sky, Absolute Football, and Facebook, the Absolute Football Podcast. There we are. We're on all of those wonderful places. But thank you to everybody in the chats, contributed, listened, watched, commented, liked, all of that business. Hope you have a wonderful week. Hope there's some games on and we get less postponements, but the weather is pretty horrific. So do check the weather reports. And please, National League teams, call it off as early as you can. If you possibly can, would be lovely for people travelling. But do have a wonderful week and we will catch you on the next one. Ciao for now.